Time to sound off, Husker Nation. This is your Real Red Reaction Show on Lincoln's KFOR. Call the show now at 402-489-1240.
Welcome to it. It's Real Red Reaction as Nebraska hangs on against Rutgers 14-7. It was all about the black shirts today, the run defense, the pass rush. Just enough offense in the first half. It was MIA in the second half. Tough day for Dylan Raiola, but hey, Nebraska made it happen despite giving up 2 blocked punts. We want to hear from you on Real Red Reaction, 489-1240, 489-1240, 800-825-5865. We're streaming on Hail Varsity YouTube, Real Red Reaction YouTube, KFOR, Facebook, Twitter, as well as the Hail Varsity Radio Twitter feed at HVarsity Radio and KFOR, KFORnow.com. Elijah Herbel in studio, back from the stadium. What'd you see, man? What'd you see up close and personal? I was relegated to the couch. We'll get our starting 5 shout-outs as well. Real Red Reaction, powered by Slim Chickens, 14th and Pine Lake, 84th and Old Shady. Get your wing fiesta going for college and NFL season. Elijah, it was a close game that didn't need to be a close game. That's kind of my headline.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, what if we talked about plenty this year, Schmitty? You won't believe them in a close game until you see them do it. Well, they went out and did it. It was ugly. It was gross. Offensively in the second half, play calling left a lot to be desired. We'll get into that, I'm sure, later in this show. But let's start off and just say, after months, you could even say years of saying, man, this team is going to find a way to lose in a close football game. They didn't do that today. Should it have been close in the first place? That's another discussion point altogether. But the fact that you're able to pull off a 1-score victory, I think should be seen as an absolute win for this football team. It wasn't great. The passing attack left a lot to be desired. Raiola looked like a freshman at times today. The rushing attack lacked a lot of creativity in the second half, and those are the things I think allowed Rutgers to get back into this football game. But you hung your hat on the defense, and for as much as we talked this week about doubts surrounding that Husker defense, being able to stop the run, and man, were my doubts there in the first quarter. They turned it around. Tony White made some adjustments defensively. Our friend Damon Bidding tweeted about that during the game. Nebraska flipping from a 3-down front to a 4-down front throughout that ball game really kept Rutgers offense confused. The pass rush at key moments was able to get after Ethan Kaliak-Manis. And at the end of the day, your defense goes and wins you a football game in a close one. And yeah, there was doubts after Northern Iowa. There was doubts after Illinois. I'm not going to say my doubts have been completely eliminated after today, but I think this defense showed what they are whenever they are on a good day. Today was a good day for that Husker defense, and whenever they're on, they are one of the best defenses in the country. I will say that without a shadow of a doubt. I don't think they were on against Illinois. They were on today, and they proved why they had the preseason billing. So hats off to the Husker defense for going and winning this football game. The offense was gross at times, but 14 points was enough today, and the Husker offense went and got you 14 points. So that's kind of my initial thought on this one. There's plenty of critiques that can be made. Yes, we're going to nitpick. That's kind of the point of a post-game show. This one especially, I think, deserves a little bit of nitpicking, but you can't be mad about the Huskers getting another win in the win column.
No, Big Red now moves to 2-1 in conference play. Rutgers just able to hang around, and I love what you touched on with Damon Benning's tweet, where after that first drive, I mean, you had Monangai with 8 carries, 64 yards, and you're like, damn, this may be a long day. But then it was neutralized. We'll get some final stats for you, but we were worried about special teams going into this. You're still worried about special teams going out of this. You don't win a football game very often by allowing 2 blocked punts. But what I guess was the deal sealer for me was, there's not much Rutgers can do against this black shirt defense. And they had the ball at the 2-yard line off their second blocked punt. Huskers drive them back, hold them, get the old-fashioned goal line stand, we'll say the Colorado 1990 goal line stand. And what I mean by that is you get kind of screwed on a penalty, so you get a half the distance to the goal call, and it's a fresh set of downs. Didn't matter. Nebraska wasn't allowing Rutgers into the end zone, so they almost get that pick. Rutgers played pretty well in the second half from a field position standpoint. Nebraska was pinned a lot in their own inside the 10, inside the 5. So Nebraska had one drive that went 10 plays, but they ended up punting. And that was after the fake punt where Busi threw a 30-yard strike to Lloyd. They still ended up punting. That was the longest drive of the second half, but it was just 3 and out. You just couldn't find or settle in that first down running magic where Nebraska, a lot of the times in the first half when they had the football, had it set up at second and 6. The first down run was fine. And I'm interested to hear from Coach Rhule or Dylan Raiola himself after the game, because for the first time all season, Dylan looked like a freshman and was either afraid or was confused at pulling the trigger on some passing routes and just was off, was short arming things. And Robert Smith mentioned it. His feet weren't set. And there was quite a bit of pressure by Rutgers in the second half. 489-1240. 489-1240 to get in on Real Red Reaction. Huskers get the win. That's the most important thing for you as a Nebraska fan. But Elijah, you had some shot plays by Nebraska. They had the run game going in the first half. They hit a couple of big plays, 36 yards, 28 yards. Barney with a 28-yarder. And then the screen game to Ramir that set up that second touchdown that felt like, you know what, things were going to cruise for a little bit for Nebraska. That didn't happen. The defense, though, really made it happen today. Just that 150-yard short field around the 4.5-minute mark is when Rutgers finally got into the end zone. But they had the ball on Nebraska's side of the field, and we talk a lot about the red zone defense. Nebraska's red zone defense was phenomenal today. Really just not a shutout, but it felt like it was going to be a shutout. It felt like those 14 points were 28 points. If you're Nebraska, it's still very uneven where you're going milk carton on offense in the second half. You got to get that figured out. I don't know what Rutgers did adjustment-wise or if Dylan was just off, but your run game was not given a chance in the second half to finish this thing out, especially one of those drives where it was a quick 3 and out, where it's 3 straight pass plays, and our old boy Searles tweeting out, run the ball. Nebraska still got to find what they're comfortable with to close out games.
And I think the lack of rushing attack in the second half, to me, it came down to a lack of creativity and play calling in your rushing attack. Like, how many times did you just see Dylan turn and hand off to a running back that tried to put their head down for a gain of 1 or 2 on the inside when Rutgers knew exactly what you're doing? It was pretty simple. In the second half, when Nebraska had a lead, first down was likely going to be a handoff. If they didn't pick up anything, it was a 50-50 chance on second down. And then because it's 3rd and long, you're going to give the ball to Dylan Raiola and tell him to go throw the ball into that wind at Memorial Stadium. Like, I was not a fan at all of the play calling in the second half from Marcus Satterfield. And I'm going to illustrate a point for you, because Rutgers expecting the run, stacking the box, playing downhill. Doesn't that feel like a prime opportunity for Dylan Raiola to turn and hand to Ja'Cory Barney in motion? Like, didn't see that today. The lack of creativity with your rushing attack. You can also look at bringing in Harburg and making the defense think in the second half, and that way saying, man, why is Heinrich Harburg in the game? Even if it's just as a decoy, that's something you can do to spice it up. It was so much of just Nebraska coming out in I formation or single back or shotgun single back and turning and handing to a guy trying to run in between the tackles where there wasn't much there. Didn't like it. I'm not a play caller, so I tried to give you my best idea of how I would have spiced it up a little bit in the second half, but the creativity from a running point of view, I think, left a lot to be desired in the second half, and that's why Nebraska struggled to pick up yards. You put the ball into Dylan Raiola's hands. He's a different quarterback, 2nd and 2, 2nd and 3 with this win than he is 3rd and 7, 3rd and 8, and he felt like he was in a lot of 3rd and 7s or 3rd and 8s in the second half. So I wasn't a huge fan of the play calling, but at the end of the day, you get a win. So the play calling did enough. Whenever you trust your defense, I guess maybe you want to be uncreative and not, I guess, risk averse. You want to be risk averse as an offense. And I think that's what Nebraska's offense was for the most part in the second half, was risk averse. And you can do that whenever you trust your offense. But I really think the rushing attack just creatively wasn't there in the second half, or really in the first half either.
No, and I mean, it felt NFL-y. I mean, it did. You're just going to grind the clock, milk the clock, lean on Rutgers, lean on your defense, and kudos to Nash, kudos to Jamari, kudos to Ty Robinson. James Williams got player of the game, 5 tackles, 2 sacks, almost a third. He was nice. Yellen got in off the edge as well. Nebraska really tackled well, too. After that first drive, they were a whole different team tackling. I thought the linebackers played well. And, Rutgers on that 3rd and 13, they hit the 40-yarder to Black. He got a little bit tight there, but Nebraska ended up getting off the field again. And you also had a deflection that ended up going into the hands of Black. Now, you did dodge a bullet with the drop walking into the end zone. 14-7, you'll take it, but there is, every time announcers talk about, Big Ten, Nebraska and the Big Ten race, at this point in the year, you know what your defense is, right? They looked back to being the defense of last year, the defense that was supposed to be the defense throughout this season. They're back in form. Offensively, the run game, they didn't run as well as they needed to in the second half. They're still not a team who can run the football when they have to run the football. And then when your quarterback's off or in tough situations, to your point, it makes it tougher. And
sorry, not to cut you off, but that's kind of the point I was making about the creativity in the run game is you can try to play like Michigan does, which is, hey, we're going to run the ball. We dare you to stop it. But Nebraska doesn't have the pieces right now to be able to do that consistently against Big Ten opposition. I mean, and we talked coming this week, Rutgers' rushing defense was not great coming into this one, but it's a lot easier to play against the run whenever you as a defense know there's a 95% chance that on 1st and 10 in the second half, Nebraska's are going to run the football. You're going to be playing downhill, flowing downhill, and you need to spice it up with a little creativity if you're not, I guess, Michigan on your lines of scrimmage or name any power rushing attack. Iowa back 5 years ago before their offense kind of went to hell. Whenever you don't have that dominance up front to be able to just turn and hand off and say, we're going to run the football, we dare you to stop it, that's when you got to bring in creativity. And Nebraska isn't at the point from a rushing point of view where you can say, you know what, everyone in the stadium knows we're going to run this football. We'll tell you where we're running it and you still won't be able to stop it. Nebraska's not at that point just yet.
Nebraska had a chance to take control of this ball game. All right. And it was after you get the goal line stand, you get a couple of nice runs to start your drive up. You're up to the 30-yard line. And then your passing plays, you go back to the pass and it doesn't work and it ends up in 3rd and long. So Nebraska, though, their offensive line was beaten up on Rutgers in the first half. They were wailing away. They were getting good yards on first down. And they were also able to kind of control the flow of the football game through that. It was just a second half that you need answers. This team's far from a polished product. You're going into the break, the bye, it's 5-1, but you just haven't seen 4 quarters from the offense. You saw 4 quarters from the defense, and you saw Busi unleash a couple of nice punts today. Also had a couple of blocked. He had a monster punt after it was 14-7 that really pushed Rutgers back, and that was nice to see. 489-1240, you want to jump in. Real Red Reaction, it's powered by your friends at Slim Chickens, 14th and Pine Lake, 84th and Old Shady. We'll hear from Matt Rhule. We'll hear from Dylan Raiola. We'll hear from Pride of Fairbury. Bill Doleman going to check out. Matt keeping things in perspective. 1 win away from a bowl game. That's totally something to keep in the front pocket. Vic, his pregame prediction was 28-14. Got the 14 right. Vic, Duck,
Kind of.
looking good at the half. The interception by Dylan was a bit odd. Well, they just kind of dropped the guy into that slant route, and he didn't think the guy would react, or maybe he didn't notice him. 3 putts as defense. Yeah, defense was it. NASCAR Eric is asking if Sat fell asleep in the booth. That's fair. It was really, really rough to see that offense not do much, if anything, in the second half. Real Matthew is not happy with special teams. Black Hills Brennan said that pregame was a 17-7 prediction and 14-7. That thing coulda, shoulda, woulda, right? What should that game have been? Should it have been a 24-7 Python affair where you just snuff them out? Should it have been a 21-7? Should it have been a shutout? Snitley checks in, says Raiola didn't look comfortable all game. Body language wasn't great either. I think he was frustrated. I don't think after he got sacked on one of those third down plays and planted Elijah, he kind of looked different, and that was about midway through the third quarter. So maybe he was dealing with a little bit of a boo-boo or something like that. But Mr. Erickson checks in, defense dominated. Thank goodness for the black shirts playing up to that elite level and making it happen.
And back to your point about Raiola here really fast, because the broadcast crew up in the booth with Sharpie and Damon kind of made a point about this where he didn't look like himself on the sideline. The confidence and the energy that you usually see from Dylan Raiola wasn't there today. I think it could be a combination, and this is me playing outside. We'll see what he has to say about it post-game, or what Matt Rhule has to say about it post-game. JP is down at the pressers. He'll be sending us that audio shortly so we can get it to you. But you wonder if the wind combined with the first really bad freshman mistake, along with some protection issues where he was scrambling around, like that's a confluence of factors that can take the confidence away from a freshman quarterback, combined with the lack of rhythm that you had offensively in the second half. Like whenever you're throwing into the wind from third and behind the sticks, it's a tough place to be as a freshman quarterback. But it was clear from watching on the sideline and then what the radio broadcast said as well, that Dylan Raiola from a confident standpoint wasn't necessarily himself today.
Well, you could be Alabama today. Most Saturdays, that'd be a good thing. But old Bama got upset by Vandy. The reality in the Big Ten is survive in advance. You did that. It's never going to be a beauty contest in this league. It was far from a beauty contest in the second half. They've got dogs everywhere at my house. But Nebraska played tough. They finished tough. And this was some thoughts I have here. One, you saw Dylan struggle for the first time all season. His completion percentage less than 50%. His throws were off. You still won. So you survived a game where he was not average or great for you. You won at home, and you did that based on your defense. So, Nebraska had a couple of scoring drives in the first half. They weren't able to finish in the second half, and he knew Rutgers was going to be scrappy. You get to head to the bye week now. You knock off an unbeaten. That's a confidence booster. You won another, dare I say it, one-score game. You went to half last week in a tie game, a scoreless game, and you were able to separate. This time it got a little bit puckered up, pucker factor high with about 4 minutes left. I was kind of talking to you, Elijah, behind the scenes, and it's like, dude, this thing should be put to bed already, for the love of God. You've been up 14-0 all game. All you needed is one or two more scores, field goal. I know I just said a bad word, or get one more touchdown and it's done. I'll say this, though, with Nebraska jumping out like they did 14-0, each touchdown in the quarter, that kind of altered with what Rutgers could do. They couldn't just feed it to Monungai all game long. They were trailing, and Kelly McManus had to start chucking it. Well, he had a couple of nice throws. For the most part, he was a nightmare throwing the football, and he was a nightmare if he had time. He was a nightmare if he was under pressure, and Nebraska put a lot of pressure on him with that four-man rush. They didn't have to bring extra very often. So time and time again, the Nebraska defense came up big, and that's what you wanted to see. Lastly, I'll say, as much as special teams is going to catch hell, you won a game with Dylan not playing its best and your offense sputtering. Defense is back to form. Thirdly, Busi made a couple of nice plays when it mattered, despite getting broken half early in the ball game. He kind of gutted it out.
Mm-hmm. If you don't mind, Schmitty, legally, I think we need to pause 10 seconds for station identification. No commercial break following that. So just a quick 10 seconds and then back. It's the Real Red Reaction Show here on KFOR. Make sure to give us a call, 402-489-1240, or chime in with the online stream. And as always this season, Real Red Reaction brought to you by Slim Chickens.
This is your station for local news, talk, sports. This is the Real Red Reaction Show. Phones are open now, 402-489-1240.
So we are back with you here, Real Red Reaction, powered by Slim Chickens. Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbel. Find your way to Slim Chickens. What's up?
I said the shortest commercial break in history, and I'm sure that sounded weird for everyone on the stream, but
it was a quick legal ID.
The FCC would kick my ass if we didn't get that in there.
Sure. So you have 14th and Pine Lake, 84th and Old Cheney for Slim Chicken. Stop by and get your fingers, get your desserts, get your wings, your sweet tea. Get a salad. You know, salads aren't an awful thing right now as you head into the bye week. And we'll get to some of our stream comments as well. But Nebraska, 5-1, ugly ball game. What were the conditions like? I know what they were like in my backyard. You walked to the stadium. You walked away from the stadium. Put it into words for those that weren't at the game, just trying to throw in this crap today.
The wind was, all I can say, was swirling. We talked about the wind speed, and it was there. But you'd look up at the Jumbotron, you got the big American flag as well as the big Nebraska flag there. And they were oftentimes pointed a completely different direction than those field goal posts, the flags on top in the north end zone, which are pointed a different direction than the field goal posts in the south end zone. Like that Rutgers missed kick, if you remember, the wind was blowing pretty strongly left to right. That's crazy because it was blowing the complete opposite direction when you look back up at the Jumbotron replay. So the wind was blowing towards the east on the Jumbotron side of the field, and then on the other side of the field, it was blowing towards the west. So the wind was tough to deal with all day long, swirling, kind of changing directions, moving different ways. And like you wonder about that Rutgers dropped touchdown. It would have been a touchdown in that fourth quarter whenever it bounces off the face mask. I think that was due to wind. I think the wind probably caught that football and took it to a place the receiver wasn't expecting. Like that was kind of the impact today of what should be an easy touchdown when the defensive back falls down was anything but because of that wind. So the wind made things really difficult. I think that was in part why Dylan Raiola didn't look like himself today. It was a very, very tough ask to ask anybody to throw the football in that wind or punt the football in that wind or kick the football in that wind, whatever it was going to be. That was going to be a tough ask combined with the heat. Tough environment to play football, but hey, that's Nebraska. Nebraska's oftentimes, I'd say more often than not, going to have brutal weather. So you're able to gut it out and get a win, but really, really tough conditions for those that were watching at home and couldn't see. Like so many times up in the press box, I was trying to get a feel for which way the wind was going, and based on where you looked in the stadium, you had three different answers.
Well, yeah, and the thing switched at halftime. But we talk about coaching and some tweaks and adjustments. You know, how is the coaching matchup going to reveal itself this week with Schiano and his staff versus Rhule and his staff? And we know the job that Bielema and Illinois did specifically in the goal line, right, where they outcoached Nebraska, and they had a game plan with a little tempo, and they had a game plan to keep running the football, stay patient with it. Paid off in that overtime win. This instance, you had Tony White and the Nebraska defense have something up their yellow sleeve with the ability to give different looks that Rutgers wasn't anticipating or able to handle. I want to go back to that 3-man and 4-man look where it really kind of hamstrung or handicapped what Rutgers wanted to do, on top of the fact they're down 2 scores, so they had to alter what they had to do and wanted to do on offense. They couldn't just ground and pound it. Maybe they'd have been better off trying to make a living running the football with long drives versus letting Kelly McManus throw the football as many times as he did. So Nebraska hung on. They hung on in a 1-score game. But Didn't need to be that way. That's my takeaway. It shouldn't have been this close, but you'll take it and put it in your back pocket as a win. Snetley chimes in. I agree with Elijah, but my question is, knowing the windy conditions, why don't Nebraska run quick underneath routes instead of 4 deep routes? Excuse me. Fair question. I mean, there's all sorts of passing options you have, Elijah. You can check it down. You can find the tight end. You can do a quick little throw. The old inside trap that Bonner scored on. That was sweet. That was great play design. That was a little differentiated run game, right? That was ultra creative run game play calling by Sat. But you just, I don't know.
Where did that creative play calling go in the second?
I don't know. I don't know if Sat just said, let's get Dylan some more throws in the second half. You're up 14-0 in live bullet action or what? But I need to know why they just didn't figure out a way to run it successfully, I guess.
Steven has a great point too.
With the wind conditions, all the more reason to have Harburg in and run some sort of package there.
And what did you text me before that final drive, Schmidt? You said if you're going to run the football, get Harburg in there and have him do some quarterback run, or at least the threat of the quarterback run.
Sure. And it's not like you're benching Dylan. You're just, look at Penn State. Look what they did with their H-back package against Illinois. Uncle Mark chimes in, being able to win with bad quarterback play today shows growth. Play calling late was brutal. The play calling late was, and I'm not excusing it, Mark, but was probably trying to get Dylan going, I guess. I don't know. That better be the answer. But at what cost? 14-0 turns into 14-7 because, God forbid, your defense doesn't get a 3-and-out or a 4-and-out one more time for you. Again, my takeaway is good first half and a game that shouldn't have been that close. Should not even have whiffed or sniffed pucker time with 3 minutes, and the team that was barely able to pee a drop on this defense, they shouldn't have been in position to tie the ball game. So we'll see if Nebraska is this the rest of the year, if they can get it figured out. Elijah, they're really feast or famine in a football game where they can put a half out where they're up and in control. But again, the killer instinct aspect, they've been unable to chop anyone's head off.
Yeah. And the two sides to that are, and I've seen comments kind of going both ways in our stream chat here. We encourage you to chime in with us. Find us plenty of ways to do so post game. So if you're driving home in your car, maybe you pull up in the drive, you're like, how do I continue this show? The Real Red Reaction Show YouTube, you can check it out, or Hail Varsity on YouTube. We'll both have it streaming live, or find Schmidt and I's radio show Twitter feed at HVarsity Radio is where you can find it as well. So those are all the ways you can chime in. I've seen this both ways, and I think both things can be true. On one hand, it is encouraging that you got to win. You're one away from bowl eligibility. You won a one-score game for a change. All fantastic things, reasons for optimism. But on the flip side of things, you have plenty of games coming up on your schedule where that kind of performance in the second half isn't going to fly. Like, imagine you have a 14-point lead against Ohio State. Let's just imagine real fast. And the offense does that. You lose to Ohio State. Their offense is a lot more explosive. They're going to cause you issues if your defense is on the field that much against a team like that. Or USC. I'd even go as far as to say Iowa, because the low-scoring slugfest affair nature is how Iowa plays football. And we've seen it time and time again over the past decade. Iowa would find a way to win that football game against Nebraska if they were playing Nebraska today. So reasons for optimism, but also reasons for concern. I've said it before, this team is good, not great. And I think you can be more optimistic by the fact that they won this football game in a one-score affair than by the disappointment. But also, as the season goes on, you need to continue showing improvement. You need to keep on getting better because the level of opposition is going up. And I think you have a better opponent coming in 2 weeks after the bye with Indiana, a high-flying offense that is going to probably score some points in this Husker defense. And if you get that Charmin soft offensively in the second half against a team like Indiana, they'll make you pay, because I really like what their offense has put on the field thus far. They haven't really played anybody, but I think you can still see with the eye test that offense is going to cause some problems.
Well, Ken's like, for crying out loud, Rutgers was undefeated. they were unbeaten, and they won at Blacksburg. They won against Washington. I mean, they were a decent squad coming in here. My point is for this team to get to the level they think they can be, and defensively they were back at that elite level today. But you can't go missing for entire halves, and you got to figure out something on offense. And whether it's the run or the pass, you have options there, Elijah, that you can do both well, but you can do neither well. And I thought you had a chance to run it. I think you went away from the run game for whatever reason, and your quarterback was either shaken up or confused by what Rutgers was doing, just wasn't making the plays. And that allowed Rutgers to hang around, because the defense, man, they answered so many bells today, be it short fields because of your special teams or short fields because of a turnover. Nebraska was just absolutely dominant and fantastic. Defense gets the game ball for sure. I want to go back to the first half with Emmett running the football early, and then Dowell. Nebraska going for it on 4th and 1 with Dowell getting into the end zone there. I like it. I like the counter game. Nebraska was able to get moving downhill, running the football in that first half. And Rutgers either stiffened up or there wasn't enough exhaustion or body blows for Nebraska to capitalize and put. You'd feel better about this ball game, I guess, if it was 21-0, 21-7, 28-7. You needed to do a little more work on offense in the second half. A lot more work.
Excuse you, Schmitty. It may be a good time here as we've crossed the 30-minute mark here. I know I just got Matt Rhule's audio sent to me via our friend JP down at the pressers. It might be a good time to take a break and come back for Matt Rhule's post-game press conference, see what he had to think about the game.
Yep, we'll hear from Matt Rhule coming up, 489-1240. Want to jump in. Welcome to Do It, Real Red Reaction, powered by Slim Chickens, as 14th and Pine Lake, 84th and Old Cheney, both locations for you, KFOR, KFOR Now.com, where you can stream the show. As we're going to step away for a moment, I'm going to call the dog catcher to take my German Shepherd, who's going nuts. People are shooting off fireworks, Elijah, like it's a 95 Orange Bowl in the neighborhood. They're excited for a conference win. And we'll hear from Matt Rhule, from Dylan Raiola, and more from you in the stream or on the phone lines, Hail Varsity YouTube and the Real Red Reaction YouTube, KFOR platforms, Facebook and Twitter, Hail Varsity Radio, Twitter, and streaming KFORnow.com.
On the battlefield, there's a saying America's military men and women live by. Never leave a fallen warrior behind. Ever. Off the battlefield, Wounded Warrior Project operates with the same goal. We leave no warrior behind. Wounded Warrior Project is a non-profit organization created to help armed men and women returning home with the scars of war. Whether those scars are physical or mental, we're here to make sure that they heal. And whether it's helping those with post-traumatic stress disorder live a normal life again, or giving much-needed support to injured warriors in veterans' hospitals. Because no one deserves our help more than the men and women who risk their lives to keep us safe. Wounded Warrior Project. We never leave a fallen warrior behind. Ever. Learn more about what we do at woundedwarriorproject.org.
Hi, I'm Tony Dungy. Our son Jordan needed the specialized care that only Shriners Hospitals for Children could provide, and it was incredible to see the love and dedicated care he received. Shriners Hospitals for Children is a healthcare system dedicated to improving the lives of kids with pediatric conditions.
Shriners Hospitals for Children is changing the world through caring for kids. Please give today at 1-800-241-4438 or at shrinershospitalsforchildren.org.
Our daughter Lee was born with brittle bone disease. Thanks to Shriners Hospitals for Children, I can go to school, play, and do fun things like other kids. They've helped me so much. They're like my family. We need your help. Please donate today.
Shriners Hospitals for Children is changing the world through caring for kids. Please give today at 1-800-241-4438 or at shrinershospitalsforchildren.org.
This may sound like a typical high school basketball game being played on a Friday night in Nebraska. In fact, it's a crash course in cooperation and teamwork. It's a test of dedication, determination, and drive. It's character development in action. If you think high school sports are only about competition, think about this. High school sports can play a critical role in a student's overall education. In fact, studies show that students who participate in school sports are more likely to enjoy greater levels of achievement in their academic lives. At the same time, playing sports helps teach lessons not covered in the classroom. Lessons like tolerance, respect for the rules, and the importance of supporting your community. High school sports, a winning part of a complete education. This message presented by the Nebraska School Activities.
Get your thoughts on now. The Real Red Reaction Show is unfiltered at KFOR.
Back here, Real Red Reaction on KFOR, KFORnow.com. Zach chimes in. We'll hear from Matt Rhule in a moment. 489-1240, 800-825-5865, and at least two occasions in the fourth quarter. Sat could easily passes in the boot where Dylan had Barney and didn't throw it. One, he took the harder throw back to Fedoni, incomplete. Another, he ate a sack. DR was rattled. Fair enough. Not all of it's on Sat, except technically calling the pass play. And I know they weren't getting 17 to carry. Game Dog says, let's not put Nebraska anywhere near Bama. I am not Game Dog. Bama's elite. They just forgot to show up in Nashville. Nashville may burn tonight in a empty pile of fireball shots and whatever alcohol gets consumed as Vanderbilt not only beat Alabama, but beat number one Alabama in the throes of that Georgia game.
Yeah, and you about said Nashville's going to burn in a good way, and I don't think there's ever a good way for Nashville. The Vandy fan base will be on fire in a good way. How about that?
Yeah, that's awesome for them. That is awesome. You made this observation early. Nebraska, from time to time, would employ a sixth offensive lineman.
Oh, yeah.
That sixth offensive lineman was Mazzccua. Please expand a little further, Elijah, on what an offensive lineman saw an offensive line doing.
I saw an offensive line that, from a running lanes point of view, was night and day different with Micah Mazzccua in the football game. And yeah, it's always great whenever you have another offensive lineman, more beef, a heavier package. Like, that's the goal. But Mazzccua remains Nebraska's best offensive lineman from a running point of view, and I'd argue from an overall point of view as well. And it's hard to say that because we haven't seen him in conference play as a starter. So that lacks just a little bit of context, but the limited snaps I was able to see today confirmed what I thought coming into this game, which is, despite the fact that he's a backup, he's not a backup because of anything that he does on the field. On the field, that dude is a difference maker for Nebraska's offensive line. Anytime it was 3rd and short, 4th and short, 3rd and goal, Nebraska brought in Micah Mazzccua to come in and play the quote-unquote tight end position, line up on the end of the line of scrimmage. So it was next to Ben Hart. You got that formation back with those two next to each other, and it went right back to road grading. Micah Mazzccua is a road grader offensive lineman, and anytime he came into that football game today, he was a difference maker. I'd call him one of the most important pieces of that offense, despite the fact that Matt Rhule wants to call him a backup. That's not for what he does on the field. On the field, he's an absolute difference maker, and you hope you see him back on this field again, because anytime he steps foot on that field from a chip on your shoulder point of view, this offensive line changes, and just from a push point of view, this offensive line changes. There was one play, 4th down and 1, where Nebraska went with the inside run play. Mazzccua down blocked. You have a linebacker trying to shoot through the gap and make a play in the backfield. And Mazzccua laid a shoulder into him, and that dude went flying. And it opened up a hole for, I believe it was Dante Dowell, to power forward and pick up a first down. That's the difference that he makes. You hope you can see him back on the field in the starting capacity sooner rather than later. I think there's some off the field things he needs to deal with before he can do that. But the evidence I saw today showed me yet again that he is Nebraska's best offensive lineman. You hope he can be back on the field sooner rather than later. But I think, as Matt Rhule would say, that's up to him.
49-12-40. Nebraska has work to do on offense. They have lots of work to do on special teams. Defense was ready to rock and roll, to just keep reiterating that. And it's nice to see the defense playing at that elite level. Let's hear from Matt Rhule. We'll try and check in with the pride of Fairbury, Bill Doleman. Tiger Shark says you have Mazzccua with one hell of a left hook. Does so on the field for sure. And here is Matt Rhule post-game, what he thought.
Before I start, I just wanted to just pass on my condolences to the Clare family, the loss of Dr. Pat Clare, and just the 40 years of dedication. His sons, their continued dedication to the university. I believe our second academic All-American, and that was a heavy heart when we learned of that news this week. But a life well lived and a legacy well lived, and I want to say thank you to Dominic and Sue for coming back and, in his own quiet way, didn't want to give a big speech, just wanted to meet the fellows and answer questions. And, it's kind of funny. He said a couple things I say all the time. And I looked at Deshaun, and Deshaun said, yeah, Coach, and he says it just kind of hits different. I said, thanks, Deshaun. But and Dominic and his family, just so blessed that they were there. And then finally about the game, that was a close win. In many ways, it was a tough day. Credit to Rutgers, credit to Greg Schiano. They did a ton of things against us, but we didn't turn the ball over but once. We won the turnover battle, and I thought it was as great a defensive performance that I've been around. 6 plays inside the 2. Just whereas maybe 2 weeks ago in Illinois, we were kind of looking at the clock, worried, are we going to win? I thought this game, this day, the guys just wanted to keep going out there and playing, and they'd have kept playing another series if we let them. So proud of the guys, proud of the team win. And Busi, I thought, was an all-star again today. So with that, I'll answer your questions.
Coach, were you expecting that many big plays, impact plays from the defense as you saw, especially in the second half?
We knew it was going to be a challenge. We talked a lot about the run game, and we knew number 0 was quite a player. Now one of their wideouts, Strong, was down. And we knew Cali Madness, how good of a player he is, because he beat us last year at Minnesota, the same type game, right? 14-3, whatever it was. He makes the play down the stretch, taking 2 minutes. So it was almost like, what do they call Groundhog Day? It was almost Groundhog Day. He gets the ball back. He's going to go down there and score. But our defense practiced harder this week than they have probably in 2 years here, and I think that, what they put in came out kind of when the game started. And it was a lot of different guys. We played a lot of different guys, really adverse situations, and really a lot of 3rd and 4th down stops, which was critical.
What did you guys adjust about your run defense? They had 70 rushing yards in the first quarter. I don't think they got the 78 for the game. What did you guys do different?
Yeah, I think it was really kind of 2 things. I think they played the first quarter into the wind, so they really ran it a ton into the wind. The wind was really a factor. Like, people won't see that on TV, but that was really, really a factor. And then maybe not as much in the second half, but certainly in the first half. And then they had the wind in the second quarter, so they threw it a little bit more. And I thought if you go back to the first half, really a lot of those plays were just missed tackles. Gift comes off the edge, hit him in the backfield, just missed the tackle, right? They had one that starts right, comes all the way back, winds back, missed the tackle. So it wasn't like, oh, they've got us on this scheme. We're so grateful to have the iPads now, because you can kind of look at it and be like, it's not a scheme thing. We're just missing tackles. They had the 1 3rd and 22 after the sack, and they checked it down, and he made a guy miss and got it to 4th and 3. So I think it was more that, to be honest with you. And we started playing some man. We played some bigger guys. Like Tony's a 3-3-5 guy, but he was playing some 5 down with 2 jacks today. I was really proud of him. That was like him leaving the family almost, but he did what we needed to do. And we played some 3-man rush, some 3-2 stuff. So he had 3 different personnel groupings out there. And then I thought we won 3rd down and 1 4th down. That was my key for the defense with this game. Was I said the defense had to win 3rd down. Rutgers gets into a lot of 3rd downs. If we won them, we'd get off the field. If they stayed on the field, they would wear us down, and that was, what we were trying to avoid.
What did you see from Brian Machine today? Obviously, he went down with that injury, and you worried that he was out of the game. Then you call him for a fake punt, and probably won the game with that last punt for you guys.
Yeah, I mean, he was great. I mean, obviously he got hit hard, and we knew we were going to call that fake punt, and really almost called it the first time, and then almost called it at the 5-yard line, the one at the 5 when they blocked it. They were bringing 10 guys, and there was no one covering them. And then finally we called it the third time. But I just, Brian, what we thought was the unsung hero last week, and I say he's the unsung hero this week. And he did a great job on the last one. We were asking him the one-step punt versus the all-out max block, and he saw them drop out, and so he slowed down. He took 3 steps, and he just boomed that kick. And we took the ball today, wanting to have the wind in the fourth quarter and make them go into the wind in the fourth quarter. That's why we took the ball. And I thought that ball got up in the wind and it spiraled around. I mean, had that young man try to catch it, it might have, it would have been a tough catch. I'll just say that. So, I'm probably proud of Brian. He showed kind of showed the heart of the lion out there.
Did he almost have to, it looked like he was hurt fairly bad after the first block. How close was he to, you were warming up Camden Cook, like how close was Brian coming out?
Yeah, I got out there and he wasn't moving, so I was concerned, obviously. And he was like, I'm going to be okay. It's just my, if it was my back hip. And got to the side and I said, hey, can you just throw the fake punt for me? And he was like, yes, I can throw the fake punt. And then we had Johnny Hall kick off. And, I said, well, can you throw it into the wind? Just, and he was like, yeah, I can throw it in the wind. So he was just locked in. I think he's the guy who's burned the boats in his brain. He's going to do whatever it takes. And medically, he was fine. Just, I think he just took a big hit and was hurt, just felt it.
Yeah, the goal line stand, they had 6 cracks after that blocked punt. How impressive was that, and how important was that to the grand scheme?
Yeah, I think the thing that our guys are learning is when you have some adversity, it's an opportunity for you to rise up and do something special. I think we're getting past the point of wanting things to be easy, hoping the other team doesn't play well, and just wanting to go out and play well ourselves. And so that's the message in this building. Hey, don't want it to be easy. Go out there and play. And I thought they took the field. They wanted to get out there. We took the PI, and they played hard. I mean, Tony had a little twist stunt. He ran twice, and Nash came around one. I forget. I don't want to not give credit to somebody, but they made big hits and kind of knocked it out of there, and then just defended the fourth down play. So just some really great stuff. And it was a tough day in the second half on offense, right, and really on third down. But we did come out and hit that ball to Jay Lloyd, which kind of opened the field up a little bit, and so then we were able to at least kind of get out of there. And I might have the drives messed up, so you have to forgive me that things go fast for me in the game. But I thought the defense, they didn't really care what happened today. They were just going to keep playing.
What lessons do you think Bill can take out of the day-to-day when they were coming after him and he had some moments he played like that?
I think this is all part of the continuum of learning and growing. And I think you go back and you just say to yourself, what was it? What bothered me? But at the end of the day, let's make sure, at least for me, I have to make sure, we weren't high flying today on offense. We weren't scoring. We scored 14 in the first half, which was good because they've had a lead in pretty much every game, right? The whole key against a team like this is you got to get the lead and make them not play. Had they been up 14-0, we would have seen 70 runs, right? And so we did get the lead, and so that's what we needed from the offense. But the key is that we didn't, we protected the ball. We had the one interception on the RPO, but after that, even as he's taking those sacks, he's at least protecting the football and we're punting the ball away. So, every week, last week it was the field goal, this week it was the punt, this week it was a couple sacks. There's a lot of things we have to improve upon in all areas. Kind of as we fix one thing, something else pops up. But, that was a day for the offense, as I said, to them just in there just now. They were having to draw these things up. And Greg Schiano is one of the greatest defensive coaches that there is. And he had stuff out there that was really confusing. He had Mike linebackers playing D-line and guys were trying to figure it out. So we'll get better from it.
With the offense, you had several, third down, fourth down, short yardage tries, brought in extra linemen, leaving strip. What did you like about those looks and the way the guys executed? Yeah, well, we know Micah's a big, powerful guy. He's been practicing with us. And so we were going to take some, we were here to win today. It was 4th and 1 on our own 30, whatever it was on the first drive. We ran power. We ran 4th and 1 on the goal line. We thought it'd be a good matchup for us, him knocking the edge back. We really like Barrett Liebentritt. I think he's a guy that's getting better and better and better for us. Even the one backed up, we hit that run. I think the big, today was a day of We run the fake punt, and this is not negative. It's just we run the fake punt, and they just tackle us, and it's like, oh, geez, man, the returner got us. Or we hit that power, and the safety comes across and gets us late. Like, kind of needed to step out of one and make that a 21-0 game. But it was good to get Micah involved in the game, and this will be a tape that we can learn a lot from as we heal this week. It's been a tough ride here, right? So, in terms of 6, not many teams in the Big Ten, I don't think have done 6 straight games. Maybe a couple have. A lot have had a bye. So I'm glad we have a bye, and we'll see if we can get better.
You came in and mentioned that Caliac Menace had you guys in the spot a year ago and went down and won the game. Was that in any way on your mind when you were out there, or was it just something that came in when you stepped up to the podium?
No. Well, I mean, at the end of the day, we knew that as I try to orchestrate how the game could go, I always talk about how I wanted to go, and then, hey, the things that could happen. And one of the things for me was like, hey, if it turns into a throw game, like, how are we going to play it, right? And they've shown excellent protection. They double chip both edges, and they try to protect. And we played a lot of man early, and then late in the game, as we had the lead, we went to a little bit more zone after they hit those 2 deep balls in the third to last drive. But no, when I'm out there, I'm just my mind's just thinking. But I just know he's a good player, and so when you played against someone, you've seen what they can do. But I was happy that Phil worked out where they were throwing into the wind, and I thought our pass rush really showed up.
He was warm there early on. This is the first season you guys switched sidelines. Did you feel the advantage of being in the shade for the first half?
Yeah, well, I think if I'd have sat on the other side, I might have felt worse. I don't know that I noticed, other than it never felt super hot to me. I think I was more taken with the wind. I don't know if I've ever been a part of a day that's 95 and that windy, especially early on, and then gusting. And so even in pregame, the balls were kind of flying around a little bit. You remember now, I think they missed a field goal earlier, correct? Right? Am I right on that? Right. So just thought the wind would be a big deal today. It was unique in that the wind came out of the south. It was going south to north in pregame. And then when we came out for the kick, it was going north to south. And Dr. Elza does a great job. She talks, and they told us it was going to flip as the day went on. And so they actually gave us the win for the first quarter. And so, I thought we did a good job early on in the game. But it was just a lot of different factors out there, but it wasn't too hot for us. And again, we played a lot of guys knowing that we wanted to be fresh in the fourth.
What kind of value is it to win one score game? I know last week it was a very close game, but this is a one score game to prove to your guys that they can do this.
Yeah, I don't even think, respectfully, I don't think it's even like, hey, you can do this. I think it's more like, how do you do this? And how do you do it is you don't start looking at the scoreboard and the clock hoping that it runs down. You play. Just go play. And so even at the end, they got that first down on 4th down, and you didn't see our group look dejected. You didn't see them. The defense just lined back up and played again. And Buschini you need some guys to make some plays, right? Buschini makes that punt. That punt's amazing in that condition. So I think it's just the how. The how is getting to those moments and having your heart rate not rise up, just continuing to play, and just trying to make one more play than they make.
So I'm surprised they didn't go after that last punt of yours. Can they just let him punt?
I don't know. Yeah, I think the thought was, hey, we're one stepping it. Hey, let's go ahead and get it. Let's get it out and then return it. But I'm glad they didn't. I did not. That was my concern, was them blocking it. Again, and it's all a simple thing. It's some veteran guys. A guy. They're bringing one more than we can block, right? And so they're not covering anybody. They're coming after you. And so if I could go back, man, I'd have called that punt fake earlier. Because it would have. You sit there. You're sitting there all week. You're saying to yourself, man, I bet you they change. I bet you they're not going to do it this week. I bet you they change. And so when you get out there and see it, you're like, oh, okay. And then I should have done it on the 5-yard line. So, but I think doing it, even though no points came out of it, I thought the guys on the sideline were energized. Like, hey, coach is with us. Coach Foley's with us. Ed designed it. When I say I called it, Ed wants to call it every time. It's just me being like, all right, as the game manager, okay, let's do it, Ed. So it was a big time call, and it worked out. It flipped the field. And maybe that slowed them down later on in that last drive.
That was Matt Rhule, his post game. Walter in Philly is asking about my beverage here. Is it loaded with vodka? I wish. I'm trying to get back to the point, Walter, where I can be in public again. This is water with a little bit of the fruit punch, whatever.
The Mio?
No, it's the
Crystal Light.
Yeah, thank you. My wife's got the old economy size of it in the pantry, so I just put some Crystal Light in it. So
Well,
it is
it's clear.
just
You're doing that until you can be in public again, but I'm not sure you can show your face in public again after your picks this week.
picks were fine.
Were they?
I was good in the first half. I think during our Barney sit down, I said, how about Vandy to cover?
What'd you say during the Friday forecast with that last game?
Oh, I said I the Friday forecast, I said Rutgers 24, Nebraska 21.
There it is.
All right. I was wrong. I'm happy. Yeah, Tiger Shark says it's a full 12 ounces of cough syrup. That's funny. It's Wooter. Sorry, Walter. But yeah, numbers, brother. Numbers to get into is the Pride of Fairbury's in the on deck circle, 489-1240. It was pretty good. We were joking about the old 5-2 defense. Becky brought that up in the pregame. And the old 5-2 defense, as we've talked to Coach McBride about it, is really the old 3-4, where you just take two of your dudes that were your stand-up backers into 3-4 and put them on the line. And I got a kick out loud. I laughed out loud during the Rhule press conference about we thought Tony might have left the family, where he had two jacks playing and he had 5 down linemen. So that was a nice adjustment. We talk about this league and how tough it is to match wits coaching-wise. Nebraska was ready to go, but this is phenomenal. So we're not – if you take sack-adjusted yardage, you take 36 yards and 4 sacks, that's minus 36 yards. Nebraska finishes 42 carries for 98 yards.
Sack adjusted according to the stats that Nebraska has provided is 130 yards rushing. So I'm not sure where the impasse is there.
So what I was looking at here, 42 for 137 is what Nebraska ran it for today.
Compared to, let's see, 107 rushing yards for Rutgers with the sack adjusted according to what Nebraska has provided.
So that's okay. That's newer. So the point is you ran it well enough in the first half. Rutgers, for the love of God, they made their living on third down conversions. They are top 3 in the freaking country. Okay. 2 of 14 today because of the black shirts, because it wasn't 3rd and 3 very often. They were 2 of 6 on 4th down. Think about that money down. They went a whopping 4 of 20. Trying to move the sticks on 3rd or 4th down. Impressive. Nebraska was 7 of 19 on 3rd down. There was that big 3rd down that kind of got a drive going in the second half. That drive ended up stalling, the one to Lloyd. Really is about the only 3rd down I can remember the Big Red converting. They were 5 of 10 at halftime, so just 2 third down conversions in the second half. But they were 3 for 3 on 4th down conversions. So those are some of the inside the numbers.
Well, and we've talked before, Schmidt, about the things that you need to do to win in close ball games. And this was a close ball game. Should it have been? That's another question altogether. But it was. That's the fact of the matter. Is this is a touchdown ball game late. What do you need to do in order to win those close ball games? Win the turnover battle. Nebraska did that today. Be more efficient than your opponent on 3rd down. Nebraska was today 7 of 19 on 3rd down. And also, let's add 3 of 3 on 4th down from Nebraska. You need better in time of possession, which Nebraska was 31 minutes, just 28. Then you have to look at penalties as well, with the total yardage being 7 of 37 for Nebraska, 4 of 28 for Rutgers. So you don't lose that battle, but it's close enough that I think you could call that a wash, despite the fact that Nebraska has more penalties, just 10 yards between the two teams. Close enough to a wash. I mean, Nebraska did the things that you needed to do to go win a close football game today in terms of time of possession, 3rd down efficiency, 4th down efficiency, running the football, the takeaways. Like, Nebraska checked the boxes of the things that I circle as being the things that you need to accomplish in a tight ball game. Nebraska checks most of those boxes and they win the ball game at the end of the day. Positives. And as I said earlier, we're going to nitpick on this show. That's kind of the point of a post-game show. At the end of the day, I am more optimistic than pessimistic about the result of this football game, despite the fact that there are reasons for pessimism. And if you don't see the reasons for pessimism, you might be living under a rock or blinded by your fandom. There are reasons for pessimism, but there's a lot of reasons for
reasons for pessimism. You're 2 blocks you give up on punts. That'll lose you any football game.
Yep.
Your third down in the second half, you're scoring in the second half, your rushing attack in the second half, your play calling in the second half, your pass protection in the second half. I mean, listen, and Rutgers is good. And what Rhule touched on with Rutgers and Schiano, dude's a brilliant defensive guy. So there was a lot of confusion, second guessing, unsure to pull the trigger. If you're Dylan, you learn from it. You get to learn from it from a win. You hear that a lot, but hey, 14-7, you'll take it and run. I thought it was going to be a tight ball game. It ended up being a tight ball game, and at least Nebraska's mannerisms, mentality, maturity is evident. Back-to-back weeks post Illinois, where they got the most important thing, and that's the win. Let's see if the Pride of Fairbury's ready for us, as he is backstage. Billy D, do you have us?
I gotcha.
Where's your camera, dude? You're a black square with a white dot.
Well, when you get home and you got a ferocious beast that means business with a Glock pointing at you when you walk in the door, he's saying, we got to go for a little walk right now. So his post-game reaction is business first. So,
Gotcha.
yeah, he's been.
He didn't utter anything about play calling or execution while he was doing his business, did he?
No, he's fine because he got into my cigars and my Woodford, but he's not happy that I'm getting back this late at night. So at least he was imbibing while I was gone, but he still got the business into the day to take care of.
That's pretty good. Bill, takeaways. What'd you think?
Well, one thing for sure, whoever went to class and learned that having your bench in the shadows of the Memorial Stadium press box on a 90-degree day is a good idea. Whoever came up with that deserves a game ball, because that actually did play kind of a role in the game. Well, one of my announcers on KRNU talked to some of the Rutgers folks at halftime, and Monangai had a terrific first quarter, and it looked like he was going to have a terrific career kind of game, but it turns out he was gassed after the first 15 minutes. I mean, he carried for like 10 carries for about 80 yards or something in the first quarter, something like that. He only carried the ball like 3-4 times after the first 15 minutes. So the conditions, the bright sunshine on the other side of the street, it was a bit of a factor. And you also consider that the wind was whipping so much, and oftentimes it was west to east and blowing. I mean, you get buffeted by the wind all day. That takes a little bit out of you too. So the conditions at Memorial Stadium were not that great for Rutgers, and Monangai was just tired after the first quarter. So kudos to whoever came up with that idea, because Nebraska did have a bit of a climate advantage in the game. Go ahead.
It doesn't seem to make a lot of sense. I don't mean to cut you off. This doesn't seem right based on my eyes, but it is true. Dante Dowell and Kyle Monangai finished with the exact same average yards per carry, 4.1 yards, which, based on how that first half went, you wouldn't have thought that would be the case, but that's how it ends up.
Well, actually, with Dowell, that doesn't surprise me, because it seems like every single carry that he has, he just bangs into the line and picks up 4 yards. Bangs into the line and picks up 4 yards. Right? He's not the most elusive of backs for Nebraska, but he was a man away from breaking at 98 yards, and that's another takeaway. You look at the final score, and Nebraska allowed a little more drama in the fourth quarter and in the final 5 minutes than there probably needed to be. But you think of the what might have beens. There's one man between him and the end zone on a 98-yard touchdown run, reminiscent of Roger Craig against Florida State in about 81 or somewhere. You can also think about the fake punt pass. Buschini and Lloyd has nothing but green grass. But instead of losing by a yard against Illinois, Nebraska loses 6 points by a foot. How that guy reached out and tackled Lloyd on that fake punt, I'll never know, but that would have been a touchdown, and there should have been a pick six as well. So opportunities, if they just complete the play to put more points on the board. But that's football. Ifs and it's and all that. But Dowdell is just not been your big play back anyway. But it was pretty noticeable that Monangai was just not a factor after the first quarter. It would look like he was going to potentially have a really big game, and that was going to be problematic for Nebraska's defense.
Nebraska, Bill, able to jump out to that 2-score lead, so that altered how Rutgers chose to do business with not being able to just ground and pound all day on top of the climate that you pointed out. But as we head into the bye week, Nebraska back to business as normal defensively. Still some nightmare issues with special teams and a incomplete ball game offensively. Just a couple of third down conversions. I think in that second half they were 5 for 10 going into halftime. But what did you make of? Was it Dylan getting smacked around, or was it more of whatever Schiano and Rutgers threw at him that made him a bit gun-shy or hesitant in that second half? A lot of venom towards Sat here on the stream comments with the play calling and not wanting to run the football or moving to that part of the play sheet where you're going to run it in the second half up 14-0 in the third quarter, in the fourth quarter. I don't want to say Nebraska got cute calling pass plays. He was just trying to move the football. I get it. But Nebraska wasn't up to the execution that they needed to be. And again, that door kept wide open and propped open, frankly, by Nebraska for Rutgers even to get a cover today.
Look, I think a lot of this goes to Greg Schiano, and it's something I talked about all week and have mentioned the last several weeks. Nebraska's two biggest tests in the first half of the season were going to be against Illinois and Brett Bielema, who has had time to implement what he wants to do. At Illinois, the foundation is in place. It's year 4 from there. And Nebraska ran into a team in Illinois that had scouted Nebraska well and had a game plan, and they executed it. And Nebraska almost won that game, but that was coaching. And the same thing with Rutgers. Greg Schiano is perfect for that job. He should never, ever leave that job again to be enticed by the NFL and the Giants or the Jets when they come calling. Really good coach. He's been the defensive coordinator and associate head coach at Ohio State the last couple of years, waiting for this job to come open. And I think that they had a plan in place to confuse, Nebraska a little bit and to put pressure on Raiola that he had not seen before. So when it comes to the coaching matchup, did Greg Schiano and company, I don't want to say outsmart, Marcus Satterfield and company, maybe, but I think they had a really good game plan defensively, and that confused Nebraska and caused Dylan Raiola to have a game in which he looked like, for the first time, really a true freshman. And the only time that he's ever looked like that before was in the fourth quarter of the Illinois game. So I think you mark this, put this down as coaching, and throwing some packages at Nebraska that they hadn't seen, they weren't prepared for. Nebraska obviously did some things today that Rutgers was not prepared for. Some of them could have been big plays, more points put on the board. But I think this is kind of the game I expected. I thought there'd be more points on the board. But, credit Tony White and his defense. Because they did a terrific job. They played a lot of players. They saved, and credit to Riley Van Poppel too. Here's a guy, that they've targeted to redshirt. He's played 2 games this year, probably played in 1 or 2 that he shouldn't have, but he must have stayed dialed in, knowing that at some point his number was going to get called again. And there he was when Rutgers had the ball inside the 5 after the block punt. He was part of that goal line, that 6-play goal line stand. and good on him for being prepared. I really noticed that here's a guy when called upon it. And Mazzccua, look, maybe you're only suspended in long yardage situations, but they lift the suspension when it's 4th and short. But he made plays along the offensive line that Nebraska had to needed to be made, and one of them was going for it on 4th down early. That set the tone. I really think that play set the tone more than anything else.
Well, to be fair, Bill, maybe Matt Rhule and Marcus Satterfield just listening to the Average Joe Sports Show a couple weeks ago, whenever I said, "Hey, whenever it's 3rd and 1 or 4th and 1, just bring Mazzccua out there for a play or two, pick up the first down, and send him back to the sideline." That was the game plan today, and it worked. Mazzccua was an impact coming in, and as we discussed the running game here, you kind of hit on it, giving credit to Greg Schiano. Don't you think, though, that whenever Nebraska did run the football in the second half, all parts of it felt pretty predictable? I think you allowed Greg Schiano to get a little bit more creative with his defense and to be a little bit more, maybe experimental is the word, because Nebraska was running the ball predictably in between the tackles, direct handoff game on downs and distances where the defense was expecting the run. And that is part of being in the Big Ten and playing with the lead. That's going to happen. But I think you kind of played into Schiano's hands a little bit in the second half with that, who Schiano, as we all know, a fantastic defensive coach.
Well, I don't think there's any question about that. And I think one of the reasons why they were able to zero in on Nebraska and limiting the ground game is because they had, for the most part, rattled Raiola and the passing game. Nebraska really was not able to open things up. There was, there were a couple of passes, like the one interception was directly at the guy. Dylan didn't look like Dylan, or the one that we've come to know in the first few weeks of the season. So I think to that end, because they felt pretty comfortable in the way they were defending Nebraska, really is a pass first. Let's face it. Everybody says you want to be run first, but passing is, how Nebraska has been so effective this season. He just didn't look comfortable. And once they kind of, zeroed in on that, I think they were able to zero in on stopping the run just a little bit more. And, again, Nebraska does not have that breakaway threat in the ground game. And they've had some plays during the course of the games where Emmett Johnson has the big run, or Barney gets a jet sweep type run where they pick up some yards. There wasn't any of that today. Everything was in a phone booth for Nebraska's run game, except for what could have been a 98-yard run by Dowell. And I think once they realized that they had a pretty good scheme against Nebraska's passing game, that maybe Dylan was a little off on his passes, that they were able to stop the run a little bit better than maybe they anticipated.
Schmitty, you muted yourself. Schmitty, you muted yourself.
Bill, we'll be ready to rock and roll tomorrow at 10:30 for the Average Joe Sports Show Sunday edition live on YouTube. Excited for that. He kind of nailed it with the there he is, Bill Doleman on a walk with Shaggy the dog. I like it.
Yeah, he's still packing. He's still packing heat, so I feel safe.
I love that Bill's going business casual for walking the dog.
He is. Bill's walking his pup. Mine are behind me chewing on something.
Oh, there he is.
Hey, Shaggy.
There you go, Shag.
Everyone will know whose bush
there you go.
Yeah. So Crypto King is calling his shot, saying Nebraska will win 10 games. Crypto King, thanks for checking in on YouTube on the stream.
Crypto mixed in a water.
No, well, and that's it. People are getting after us a little bit about hey, they won a tied ball game. They won a Big Ten slugfest. And listen, yeah, this is a game they find a way to set themselves on fire in past seasons, past years. Get it, totally. But I'm saying moving forward, Nebraska, with their defense and with some of the weapons offensively, you're going to need to maybe go win a shootout in Bloomington here in a couple of weeks. Don't know, but you're going to need to put up more than 14 points. I do know. Ohio State, don't even. But the point is you've seen this movie too often with the offense going milk carton in the second half this season.
But look, those teams, look, Ohio State aside, those teams are going to have to figure out a way to beat Nebraska's defense. you know, and I still think that that's a significant thing that Nebraska, when those guys are dialed in, and yeah, you know, they listen to the Average Joe Sports Show and what you said. I you know, appreciate them listening, because I said if anybody's going to have to take a mulligan after Illinois, it would be Robinson, Hutton-Maker, Butler and company. And let's face it, Ty Robinson and Nash Hutton-Maker were monsters today. So thank you for being in the Average Joe listenership with Sunday mornings at 10:30, and of course our midweek show. But I said those are the guys that had to really.
He's frozen. He's going Han Solo on us.
They were big time difference makers today, and those other teams. Look, Indiana's had a great start to the season, and their signature win really is the dismantling of UCLA. All right, how good is that? The same thing could be said a little bit about Rutgers. And I mentioned this yesterday on Hail Varsity. Look, they played Howard, Akron, Virginia Tech, and Washington, and probably should have lost to Washington. But you know, this was Rutgers' toughest test of the season, and they made it close, but they didn't pass. So those teams down the road that have to play Nebraska and the Black Shirts, you know, this is a confidence building win for Nebraska. So, you know, Indiana, yeah, they're much better than people anticipated. Ohio State's going to be tough. UCLA coming to Lincoln, Wisconsin, nice name, but can you say Luke Fickell has established his program there, as well as Rhule has established his program here in 2 years? I think you'd probably say Rhule so far is ahead of what Fickell's trying to do at Wisconsin. So I think there's at least 2, probably 3 wins, and maybe Nebraska sneaks one somewhere. But the defense has to play. The defense has to continue to play at the level that it's playing, in case you have off days like they had today with Raiola and company.
No, I think moving forward, though, what I want to see if I'm a Nebraska fan in October and into November is defense that stays like they've been playing, play great ball. They've ramped up to playing their best day, which was today. They owned it. They dominated. They were great. Need the offense to complement all game, not just part of a game. And then from a special team standpoint, just don't blow any more digits off. All right. that was bad. Bill, we're going to let you hop in with Shag. Ken, thanks for the $10 donation. Crypto King also gave us some donations. Allegedly, there is money we can convert once we're tipped, Elijah, that could be used for all of us for alcohol needs. Is that true?
I don't know.
Well, I got to go see if my dog left me any Guinness. That's all. That's my biggest concern right now.
Well, you go check that. We're going to take a top of the hour timeout. We're going to come back and hear from some of the Husker players. We'll check back in with you, Bill, probably about 15 minutes for some final thoughts.
All right. Sounds good.
Right. It's the Real Red Reaction show. We got to say shout out and thanks to Slim Chickens as they power Real Red Reaction for you. 489-1240 is the number to dial up. But most of you have been hanging out, hammering away on the stream, Hail Varsity, YouTube, Real Red Reaction, YouTube, KFOR, Facebook, and Twitter, Hail Varsity Radio, Twitter. And we'll hear, Elijah, you've got some of the players loaded up.
I can get them loaded up.
Wonderful. Quick timeout as it's 8 bells. We'll hear from a few of the Huskers, Dylan Raiola included, on the other side of this. And Bill Doleman, Elijah Herbel, myself, Chris Schmidt, some final thoughts as we'll get you into this 8 o'clock hour here on KFOR, KFORnow.com.
This is your station for local news, talk, sports, and weather. FM 101.5, 1240 AM, KFOR, Lincoln.
ADHD. It's the child who can't pay attention or sit still in school, right? The answer may be yes. Attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, or ADHD, can be complicated and it can last a lifetime. Living with a condition can sometimes be a challenge. It may take years to accept a formal diagnosis, and it's not always easy to find the right treatment plan. Did you know that up to 75% of children and adolescents with ADHD have at least one additional mental health condition that also requires a comprehensive approach to treatment? ADHD guidelines were recently updated to reflect the need to screen for associated disorders. Be sure to talk with your child's doctor about proper screening and visit more2adhd.com for additional information. That's more2adhd.com. This message has been brought to you in partnership with ADA, ACO, and CHAD.
Every 2 minutes, a woman in the U.S. is diagnosed with breast cancer. And in that split-second moment in time, her life changes forever. The toll of breast cancer is great. The need to support those who are battling the disease today is even greater. And that's why when others look away, Susan G. Komen leans in. We're fighting alongside patients because we know one moment can change a lifetime. Fighting breast cancer takes funding for research to discover the next new treatment, providing access to quality and affordable health care, and people willing to take action by raising funds and raising their voice to advocate for others. United by hope, we can end breast cancer. Join our fight. Save lives.
I was in the hospital with my son for 18 months. When he got injured, I wasn't prepared, but I knew I had to be strong.
When I was told about John's injury, I was in complete shock. I just remember rushing into his room and giving him a big hug and letting him know I was there.
These veterans and families are just a few of the heroes we serve at Homes for Our Troops. For thousands of severely injured veterans, everyday life is filled with barriers.
It was really the little things throughout the house. Counters that you can't roll up to. I had to drag my wheelchair down steps.
I want to help, but he is so determined.
At Homes for Our Troops, we build specially adapted custom homes with features like wheelchair access, roll-in showers, and automatic door openers that allow them to function independently and focus on their recovery and family.
This house is freedom. It's hope. It's a new beginning.
This house has given me my family back.
To learn more, visit hfotusa.org.
Adopt US Kids presents What to Expect When You're Expecting. A teenager. Learning the lingo.
Today I'm going to help parents translate teen slang. Now, when a teen says something is on fleek, it's exactly like saying, that's rad. It simply means that something is awesome or cool. Another one is totes. It's exactly like saying, totally, just shorter. As in, I totes love going to the mall with Becca. Another word you might hear is jelly. Jelly is a shorter, better way to say jealous. As in, Chloe, I am like so jelly of your unicorn phone case.
You don't have to speak teen to be a perfect parent. Thousands of teens in foster care will think you're, rad just the same. To learn more, visit adoptuskids.org.
Anything goes. Anything can be said. The Real Red Reaction Show is live now on KFOR.
Thanks to our friends at Slim Chickens, 14th and Pine Lake, 84th at Old Shady, Hooksy and the crew at Slim Chickens, making it happen. You're on your way back from the old ball game. Maybe you're settling. Maybe you're pouring a Guinness like one Bill Doleman. Get some wings, get some chicken fingers, get a salad, get some dessert. It's all good for you as we will dive in to some of the player audio. We heard from Matt Rhule a little bit. Bill's situated. He's in his studio, which is nice. Timeout. Bill needs a timeout. That means he needs to pour his Guinness. Should we fire up Dylan Raiola here?
We have Will on the line first.
Oh, Will. Thanks for calling. Will, welcome into Real Red Reaction. Go ahead, bud.
Hey, how you guys doing?
Good, man. Thanks for listening.
Always better after a win, right?
Yeah. I'm still
this was our easiest part of our schedule, so I only see one more win. I predicted 6-6 before the season, and that's what I'm sticking to.
That's fair.
No, I hear you.
I would say I don't know if what we thought preseason about this run of games was what it ended up being. Whenever you have an undefeated Indiana, an undefeated Illinois, an undefeated Rutgers, like Ohio State is Ohio State, but I think you can look at some of those games late in the season and say, you know what, those teams aren't where we thought they'd be with Iowa and Wisconsin and maybe UCLA, depending on where you were with them. I think the context may have changed a little bit.
Yeah, but still, I only see one more win, which is UCLA.
Fair enough. Hats off to you. Will, thoughts on the play calling in the second half today?
Offensively or defensively?
Offensively.
Bad.
Fair enough.
Really, really bad. I think Foley needs to go. Satterfield, he's got to go too. Bill Bush is in Lincoln.
I'm sorry. Will, I'm sorry. I had to go rescue my
Will
freaking sandal.
Satterfield and Foley both need to go.
Will, thanks for the phone call. Is he still with us?
I think so.
Yeah,
Will?
I'm still here.
All right. So now I had to hop off mic for a second. The damn dog just ate my sandal. I'm showing it to you on video here.
Will, any reaction to Schmidt's dog eating a sandal?
No reaction.
So you're making coaching changes, Will. Did I catch that right? I didn't hear Will's commentary. What did he say?
Yeah, he said Satterfield and Foley need to go.
Yeah, I don't think you're going to see Sat going anywhere. I don't know about Foley. I like Easy Ed. He's a dude that loves the state of Nebraska, but his unit needs to perform better. That's for sure.
All right.
See you, Will. Appreciate it. We didn't ask Will who he replaces them with, or did he say?
He did say.
He did?
Yes.
Okay, he said Bush because the world wants Bush.
Or Guinness.
Yes, that's true. Or who's his offensive coordinator?
He didn't say one, so I'll say Elijah Herbel.
Okay.
If I'm going to sit here and be an armchair analyst, that means I can definitely call plays in a Division I Power 5 football game, right?
Well, again, Lance took over the second half of that West Canaan game and did all right, led him to a win. So, I guess maybe Elliott Brown could be the new offensive coordinator and you kick Coach Kilmer to the curb.
Wow.
You look like with your with that sandal in hand, you look like you're ready for a George Bush press conference.
Dude, I am not happy.
Neither was that one reporter, right?
No, but I mean, you turn your head for 2 seconds to do a post-game show, and the little furball decides to go destroy. Kurt emailed in, says Connor Booth ran for 150 yards today.
Did you see his game last night?
Oh, it was nuts. It was impressive.
Absolutely. What, 380 plus yards and 8 touchdowns?
Yeah, that was incredible. That was absolutely incredible. 489-1240, 800-825-5865. Tiger Shark says, Schmitty, I have a German Shepherd too. I feel your pain. It wasn't the German. It was not the German. It was the damn Bernedoodle. The puppy. Sterling. All right, let's hear from Dylan. Let's hear from Dylan Raiola, his post-game comments.
It's a short one from Dylan today.
I would hope. Real Red Reaction, powered by Slim Chickens. Here's Dylan Raiola.
I mean, hats off to their defense. They played a heck of a game. Had a great plan against us. I mean, those games happen. I hate to say it, but I mean, we just got to go back. And I thought it was a really good defense coming into this game. So our defense stepped up big time when we needed them, and couldn't be more grateful for them. And even our punter. I mean, Buschini is just a true just representation of our program, and couldn't be more proud to have that defense. And yeah, I mean, we won the game. That's all that matters.
How would you rate his pass?
Oh my gosh, he spun it too. I give him a 10 out of 10. I loved it.
How much was the win
were trying to do out there today?
Yeah, it wasn't really a factor from a game plan standpoint. It was more just kind of figuring out where it was. You know, it kind of changed throughout the game, but you know, that's part of football. You got to play in different conditions, and yeah, we adjusted well, and I'm just glad we won.
You moved it pretty efficiently in the first half, getting 206 yards at halftime. What sort of shifted, or you think got a little off course in the second half?
Yeah, I think just execution, and I'll take that one. You know, I missed some throws, you know, that we could have kept us on the field, and yeah, I mean, it's all part of learning, and just like I said, you know, if we didn't have that defense, we might be in a different point of view right now. But yeah, we'll get it cleaned up, and we'll make sure it doesn't happen again.
First half of your first season is down. How much do you think you can take all of these? You had so many different experiences. How much do you think you can take all of that and build from it and learn from it and go with what's next?
Yeah, I think it's huge to have this bye week and kind of reflect on all our games we've played so far. Understand what teams are trying to do and get after us for, and yeah, it feels good. You know, and naturally we want to settle and kind of just coast right now, but you know, we really gotta step on it and keep going. So, you know, I know our team will respond and we'll use the bye week to our advantage. But yeah, we're happy, and you know, it's nice to get a win going into the bye week. You know, we'd hate to have a L. Yeah.
There were several short yardage conversions. You know, got the extra linemen, barely even trading the game. I mean, just what do you think the run game's ability to get those tough yards?
Yeah, our O-line's physical, and they pride themselves on it, and they work on it every day. So couldn't be more proud of those guys up front. Moved the line of scrimmage, and I think we were the more physical team in the trenches. So hats off to them. Hats off to my uncle getting them ready, and yeah, we'll keep the train moving.
Anything else for Bill?
You get to reconnect with Sue.
Yeah.
What are your memories of him, and what was it like to see him this week?
Yeah, it was awesome. You know, I haven't seen him since I was a little baby. Not baby, but 8 years old or something. And so I really only remember kind of just every time he made a play, I thought everyone was booing him. But they come to find out they're saying Sue. But no, I mean, I think that's one of the cool moments I'll probably never forget, is be able to share the tunnel walk with probably the greatest Nebraska defensive player to ever play this game. And yeah, it was good to reconnect. And I told him he's so lucky he had it, so stay a little bit away from me. It hurt me.
Hey, halfway through your first season, what do you like about college football and about this team?
I love the games that come down to the wire. I mean, you know, it's a fun situation. You practice and you train all off season for it, and you know, the Big Ten's a physical conference, and I think they can compete with anybody. And yeah, it's all about learning right now and cleaning up next stuff for next week, going into the rest of the season. But proud of our team, proud of where we're at, and you know, we keep pushing.
That was Dylan Raiola, and talked about missing some throws, getting things cleaned up, shouting out to the Nebraska defense. Nebraska's punting. You've got folks in the stream talking about Sat at South Carolina. It's a two-way street, Elijah and Bill, from an execution standpoint and what needs to be called at what time. And the truth of the matter is, you go into Indiana, you go into Ohio State, you've got the November slate in front of you that includes an Iowa and a Wisconsin. And as bad as UCLA's record is, they're a dangerous football team because they hang around with anyone they play. It doesn't matter if they're Penn State or LSU. It's a hard-fought job to vanquish them. They're a lot like Rutgers, where you just get out of Dodge with a win. And, you know, I think Nebraska fans are excited about that. Nebraska's finding ways to win, and it doesn't have to always be on all hitting on all cylinders. They rarely have hit on all cylinders. That's the Guinness being half full, Bill, is there's still a lot of football, not yours, but just metaphorically speaking. You still got half your beer left. They can play a lot better football. You just wonder how soon that's going to happen. Again, it needs to happen, Elijah, here by the time they get to Bloomington.
Well, there's two sides of this to me. Where I've had complaints with Marcus Satterfield's play calling this year has been almost primarily whenever Nebraska is playing with a lead. And I think there's two ways you can look at that. One is, how do you want to call the game whenever you have a lead? And based on your personnel, how do you need to call the game based on how you lead? I think there's a bit of a disconnect right there, because I think in an ideal world, Nebraska can play like Michigan and Wisconsin of old, Iowa of old, those teams where everyone in the world knows you're running the football, you hand it off, and you still pick up 5 or 6 yards. I don't think Nebraska's at that point right now. And that's why I talk about the creativity in the run game, because you need to be able to find a way to find a rushing attack whenever people know you're going to be running the football. Nebraska wasn't able to do that in the second half. No, I don't blame him for running the ball on first down or second down or whenever you're behind the sticks.
Better production and better efficiency at it.
You want better production, better efficiency, and you see the creativity in the run game whenever Nebraska is locked in a close game in the first half. You talked about the Bonner handoff. You have the one on I think it was 3rd and short where you bring Heinrich Harburg into the football game, handed Dowdell the eye candy with Harburg, pulls a linebacker, and you pick up an easy first down. Like, he's shown the ability to have creativity in the run game. That has gone away whenever Nebraska has picked up a lead and they're in a second half and they're trying to ice the game away. It's offensive play calling that is playing to not lose the game as opposed to going and playing to win the football game. And I think based on your personnel, if you want to go out and win football games, you need to be a little bit more creative with your rushing attack whenever the defense, just based on down and distance, knows that you're going to be running the football.
Bill, the reality is Nebraska's offensive line, while had a decent first half, it's not a offensive line of yesteryear where you can just line up and just mash somebody in the third quarter, in the fourth quarter, to Elijah's point, where they know you're running it and it doesn't matter. You're not there yet with this run game with this offensive line. They've been fine, but they're not a dominant line.
The reality is Nebraska's 5-1. And look, Nebraska's running game is not, is it a dominant running game? No. Would it be nice to have a back like Monangai where, he can last, but somebody can last longer than a quarter? But you've really felt during the course of the game like he's a threat, and you could see where he is able to get yards after contact. Nebraska just has not had that this season, and that just may be the way it's going to be until those young pups on the offensive line that they've recruited the last couple of years grow up. Nebraska's offensive line is what it is. And I think it's not bad. Today was their worst pass protection, but maybe that was in part because the secondary was good enough. But I look at it. Wow, Nebraska is 5-1 on the season. They're 1 win away from going bowling for the first time. And when they get that 6th win, you are going to have every chamber of commerce that has a bowl game in their community begging for Nebraska to not accept their opportunity to play in the college football playoff, because they know there's going to be 60 to 70,000 people who are going to show up at their bowl game. So look, I look at it at this point going, they are what they are. They're not every win's going to be pretty, but they're winning games. A year ago, we would be talking about 21-7 losses, right? And they won a 1-score game today, and they're finding. I mean, I hate the cliche finding ways to win, but Purdue wasn't pretty, but they scored 28 points in the second half against Purdue. First half was terrible. I think the reason why the second half wasn't so good today was because Rutgers is pretty well coached. Right? They smoked Colorado. They did what they needed to do against Northern Illinois, and UTEP turns out to be terrible. That's not a big surprise. So, look, they're 5-1. A year ago, we'd be, the last 20 years, we would be, begging to be nitpicking a 5-1 team as opposed to 1-5 and bitching about if they just had not gone for an onside kick at Northwestern, maybe they have another win. Right. But that's where I'm at right now. there are some questionable play calls, and they're not getting a lot done necessarily in the run game. Dylan had an off day, throwing the football. He looked like a freshman at times, but they're 5-1. And I think there's more than one win on the schedule the rest of the way. I'm looking at Indiana's schedule. They beat up on Florida International, Western Illinois 77-3. UCLA is terrible. Charlotte 52-14. They beat Maryland 42-28 and knocked off Northwestern today on the road. Nice win on the beaches of Chicago, 41-24. That's probably the most signature win of the season for Indiana, to win a Big Ten game on the road on the beach. So they're 6-0. They're carrying a lot of momentum into they've got their bye week. They've got a week to prepare for Nebraska, and they're going to look a lot at what Illinois did, but probably more importantly, they're going to look at what Rutgers did today. Now, can they match that? I don't know.
Fair enough. More of your comments coming in. As there's thoughts on Indiana, there's thoughts on more on Satterfield.
Yeah. Hey, you want to talk coaches? They're already talking about replacements at Florida, and I brought it up 3-4 weeks ago. James Franklin and Lane Kiffin are the two most prominent names for the job at Florida. You want to get nervous, Nebraska fans? You'll be begging for 14-7 wins. Right?
No, I get it. How about let's spend a second on the party that's ensuing in Nashville. The Cumberland River has goalposts in them now. How about that? You want to see the world of college football at its finest? The drunkest game of the year a year ago or a week ago that cost Elijah and I $500. Bama in Georgia, that Butte. And then a week later, you head on down to Nashville, and your defense gives up a 40 burger to the Fighting Commodores of all places that are a much better football team. I'll give them that. They've played well this year, and they're going to be ranked next week as Bama goes down in SEC play. It's hilarious.
Hey, SEC Shorts on YouTube is going to be lit this week.
Oh, it's going to be so good.
If anybody hasn't seen SEC Shorts, that's one of the best, 5-minute YouTubes of the week. So that's going to be awesome. Yeah.
Now, Game Dog's right. The old Georgia hangover for Bama. I get it, but hangover is one thing, but you can't lose. You can play awful, can't lose. Let's spend a minute on James Williams. I mean, that dude was big time. 2 sacks last week. He's a guy, along with Prince Will, that Illinois took a little bit of an advantage of, right, with the old NASCAR package on the third downs. Those guys were big last week. They're big this week, as he had 2 more sacks, was pretty emotional on the sideline. Not sure why. His teammates were all around him, which was cool. But James Williams, man, a force. Jamari Butler was nice, and I know Polar Bear and Ty both went nuts. They were so good. They were fun to watch today.
You mentioned James Williams. He actually had a post-game interview with the radio network kind of explaining why he was so emotional after the game. He just kind of talked about his journey, the journey from JUCO up to college, everybody doubting him, nobody taking a chance on him, and then Nebraska finally taking a chance on him, and he went back to some of his fall camp struggles last fall where he didn't know if he was going to make it, and now he has a moment like that today where he has what is probably his best game as a Husker. The Northwestern game was the coming out party last year. I think this was his best game as a Husker. Just kind of that full circle fulfillment moment is kind of what made it so satisfying to him.
That's awesome. That's so good for him. Eddie, players?
Just a thought on that. There's something Jared Tomich-esque about him. Sure. Tomich was a guy in St. John, Indiana in the early 1990s that was either going to go to a junior college. Purdue didn't want to let him walk on. Going to go to a junior college or work in the steel mills of St. John and Gary, Indiana. And I think it was Dale Peterson, a former Nebraska assistant strength coach who was the high school strength coach in the Chicago area. I don't think he was his, but he knew this guy and he knew how hard a worker he was. calls Uncle Charlie McBride and says, you ought to look at this kid. He really works hard and he's tough. And Tomich walks on at Nebraska, becomes an All-American. One of my favorite Huskers of all time. You know, I got a chance to be around him and the Peter brothers and those guys. And to see James Williams, a little bit different. The story is similar, but he's a little sleeker than Jared. You know, Jared was more of a fullback, and Williams seems to be more like a tight end. But anyway, but to see somebody get a chance like that at a place where players have always kind of gotten that chance, you know, we all know the walk-on stories for many, many years, dating back to I Am Hip, you know, the Mazzccua brothers and, you know, every small town kid from Nebraska that walked on. And he's not a Nebraska kid, but this is the place where guys like that have gotten the opportunity that nobody else was going to give them. And today you looked at when he lined up, you just had a sense that he was going to make a play, as opposed to who's that guy and who's he giving, you know, who's he giving a break to? Instead, he was the guy. He was the one that they were wanting to have the ball in his hands to take the last shot, and he made them every time. Good on him.
No, it was huge. Him coming off the edge, it's added to his moves, so to speak, that repertoire, and did big time work off the edge. Nebraska was just dominant in the trenches, and I know Rutgers is maligned a little bit for their defensive ability to stop the run. Well, on the offensive side, it was a team that was supposed to run for, you know, over 200 yards today. Didn't at all. Their quarterback was a mess. Black shirts ruled. Let's hear from Ty Robinson. Let's sneak him in as we wind down the Real Red reaction. You have something?
No, I just need to get that ready to go.
Okay.
I had Busi ready to go, so if I need to Busi,
Oh,
have that,
well,
or
let's hear from Boom Sheeny right now, as he, like many of us, have back issues.
How are you feeling?
All right. How are you feeling?
Nice to meet you.
Nice.
Head back, all okay.
Yeah, I'll be fine.
Would you like more, the pass or the 69-yard punt?
69-yard punt, just because of the situation. Now, if Jalen would have scored, probably the pass. He told me he was going to score, but I'll have to get him to work on that a little bit.
Were you surprised they did not come after you on that one? On the last one?
I wasn't, because when we faked it on him, we expected him to play a little bit less aggressively. I saw the two guys in the A gap drop right before the snap, so I felt like I'd have a split second longer to get it off, and so I was able to feel a little bit more calm back there.
I'm curious, having a guy like Brett Maher,
Mhm.
can you lean on him and give
Oh, yeah, he's the
I
best.
saw you guys, I think before the band came out, you were
Mhm.
punting that
Yep,
direction. when you
yeah.
made that, and that was basically the punt.
Right.
before.
Yeah, he's just got so much like experience because he played in the NFL for so long. So just all these little situations, we're just bouncing ideas off each other. Hey, how are we gonna play the wind here? Different stuff like that. And so, yeah, before the last punt, actually, he came up to me and said, there's not too many times that a punter has a chance to put a dagger in a game. But he said he called the shot on that and jinxed it or whatever. But yeah, so he's just an incredible tool for us. But that's someone who we need to continue to lean on, because obviously there's a lot of improvement to be made in the special teams area.
What was the situation with the wind there in the fourth
Mhm.
quarter? Like, it was a 97-degree day, I think it's coming out of the south. And
Yeah.
you had
It's crazy. Yeah. Yep.
In the fourth quarter, like, did your coaches talk to you about wanting to win in the fourth
Mhm.
quarter? And how did you see? Because you have to be, I'm sure
Correct.
you have to be really aware of that as a pitcher.
Yeah. So that's something we were looking at the forecast, and it was supposed to flip from like pregame. You guys know it was coming from the south, and it switched throughout the game. So that's something that Coach Rhule planned. We wanted the win in the fourth quarter, and it worked out great. And could have worked out. We might have 0 punts in the fourth quarter. Who knows? It could have gone a million different ways. But that's just something that the more Coach Rhule, Coach Foley are here, they'll be able to understand the different ways that the winds are going to blow in the stadium, and they're really starting to take advantage of that. So I thought that was huge, because I felt that the Rutgers kid hit a couple touchbacks, and that was huge instead of getting the ball at the one. So just learning to play the wind here is something that's going to be a huge advantage for Nebraska moving forward.
Have you been in a game where the wind has been that much of a factor before?
Oh yeah. I mean, last year when we played Illinois, I remember we had a kickoff that went to like the 20 and we recovered it just because it was like super windy. So yeah, you'll get 3 or 4 games a year in the Big Ten like that, but it's just important to try to hit a clean punt into the wind and see what happens. I got lucky on a roll today going into the wind, so we'll take our wins where we can, I guess. But yeah, I've been in multiple games like that since here.
Was there ever a thought like that first punt? They got first punt.
Yeah.
Go down. Were you just shocked or hurt, or how bad? And was there ever thought like, oh, I can't go?
I wasn't. I've had punts blocked before, so I wouldn't say I was shocked. I felt like I had a good operation time, so we gotta have to look at the film and see, how the guy came free. But I went over to the side, and the trainers started working on me, and I took a couple swings of the net, and my back was hurting pretty good. But honestly, it's not something I ever thought about coming out, because it's, God has put me in this position to be able to play here, and this is my senior year. Like, there's so many things. Like, why on earth would I little back pain? Like, who cares? To go out there and tough it out. And if I go shank it 5 yards and it's obviously better for them to put in Camden, then they can take me out that way. But I'm not just going to go out on my own terms. Like, that would just be not, the type of person that I want to be, for this team.
We had multiple guys up here talking about how you are part of the defense.
That's nice.
Ty Robinson and Marquise Buford saying stuff. How does that make you feel on being such a big contributor to a huge one-score win?
Yeah, I don't know. Those are nice words, but I mean, those dudes are dudes. Like, Ty's like a freak of nature, and like John, like I'm just a punter. But that's really nice of them to say that. I just I'm going competing against a ball, and they're competing against dudes that are trucking me if I go out there. So yeah, it's very nice.
I mean, you guys are obviously working through some things in various areas of special teams. The last week, the effort that you gave to make several tackles, and then tonight to come back from injury and complete a fake punt at the end. Like, what do you feel about your role right now in setting an example for that whole group that's trying to get things right?
Yeah, I think just try to be the same guy every day. I talked a little bit out there with Jess about just trying to insert myself into any position that I can to help the team better themselves. I don't want to be someone who talks too much, but when there's an opportunity for me to either lead by example or say a thing or two, I'm going to try to do that as best as I can. And so I think over the last 2 weeks, as you've seen, I've had the chance or opportunity in the game to kind of help the team through more of an example role, whether that be making tackles or coming back today when my back was hurting a bit and trying to hit good punts. So, that's something I've just tried to do throughout my career. And it's showing itself a little more now than it has maybe in the past. But just try to be the same guy every day, and the results come. And if I shank it 5 yards, I'll just be the same guy on the next punt.
What do you guys do to practice that pass that you do today? Is that something you guys rep a lot?
Oh yeah. I've been throwing since my freshman year. I feel really good in my arm, and so it was crazy looking at the film. They don't cover the gunners past 10 yards, like, ever. So we were like, we owe it to the football gods not to throw it at them. So it was just a great route by Jay Lloyd. Actually, we were out there at halftime on our practice field because we didn't want them to see anything, throwing on the grass, and I felt good. So we've practiced that thousands of times. Not just that route. That route was specific to this week, but we've been throwing a ton, and I've threw a couple with the quarterbacks this week just because we knew that we had a really good shot with that. So.
When was the last time you threw a pass in the game?
Never. Yeah. A lot of practice, though.
You go on that little turf field, or is it the grass field you were talking
The grass, just because we wanted to go the same direction as the game field for the wind. Yeah.
What's the longest punt you've hit in the game?
74 versus Wisconsin. Definitely wasn't my best punt, but it was my longest.
Anything else for Brian?
Awesome. Thanks, guys.
Old Buscemi, man. Good on him with the kicking, the old vicious tackling so far this season, the pass completion, and he's going to go probably unwind with whatever woodworking he'll do tonight in his shop. I love it. The other Brian says Schmidt loved the grass or turf question. I mean, it's like, why? Who gives a crap? But from a reality standpoint, that's how detailed this coaching staff is, where they were practicing it into the wind, trying to simulate the situation as well. But Billy D, Elijah, you saw I formation, you saw ISO, you saw Liebentrip, the fullback. That I think is something positive. With Nebraska get going heavy and being able to run the ball early in the ball game. Buscemi hitting some key plays with his when called upon and shaking off, a disastrous start that's not his fault. Great Red Shark says Buscemi sounds like my lawyer. Better call Buscemi.
As we kind of start to wind down this show here, as we near the 2-hour mark, and I know that the KFOR bosses will start breathing down my neck if we go too long on this show.
Can we tie in before we say goodbye?
Oh no, we'll say goodbye when we want to say goodbye. Like that's
on
fine.
air. Yeah.
I will say, like, in terms of results, though it doesn't necessarily feel satisfying the way it happened, you are 5-1 as Bill laid out, and that's a blessing based on what we've seen the past couple of years. And also going into a bye week, plenty of things to work on still for this Husker football team. Plenty of things to improve upon. Plenty of tape that you can look at and say, these are things that we can get better at through the bye week. That's what the bye week's all about. It's about resting up. It's about getting healthy, as a bug flies into my eye here in the studio. Resting up, getting healthy, but also self-evaluating what you've been through the first 6 games of this season, really being able to take a comprehensive look at that and improve things coming out of the bye week. You have that opportunity. I mean, there's a lot of things to work on from this football game, a lot of things to get better at, specifically on the offensive side of the ball with special teams. And you have that opportunity now to rest and recover, get back, get yourself right, and be a better football team whenever you head out to Bloomington to take on Indiana 2 weeks from today.
I hope in the off week, because as you mentioned, Schmidt, they've utilized a fullback. They lined up in the eye. Maybe over the next couple of weeks, they'll work on the quarterback reverse pivot down the line option as well. I'd love to see a Raiola try to pull that off like Turner Gill did circa 1981 through 83. Dylan under center, step back, reverse pivot, go down the line, and then decide whether or not to pitch the ball. You think we'll ever see that in the next 3.5 years, 2.5 years? No.
Just on video. Just on video. Gray Woman 79 nails it. 5-1, way better than 4-2.
Hey, I think people probably had a thought that, you know what? They've led 14-0 the whole game. They allowed the touchdown. Here we go again. They're going to bust one. And instead of having the guy bounce a sure touchdown off his face mask, he's going to catch it this time. They're going to go for 2. And, they're going
to absolutely steal one. And I was whining to Elijah about that before we jumped on. It's like, dude, there's no business. There's no world that this can happen in where Nebraska's defense dominates all game. And Indiana, I should say, Rutgers makes a couple of plays to tie this damn thing.
Yeah.
And
not just tie it, that they go for 2 and one guy gets that
14,
gets that last burst of energy and sneaks in, and it's 15-14. And like, what the hell happened? But we've had a lot of those what the hell just happened moments over the last, I shouldn't say all the 20 years, because the Pelini years were pretty good. But, over the last 5 years where you're dominating a game and the punter punts it away from coverage, or the wayward Illinois punter runs for 48 yards. And just how in the world did you just lose the game? And I look, when they got the ball with 5 minutes to go or 3 minutes to go, I could just see them launching one, and a guy, instead of it bouncing off his face mask, it lodges in his face mask, and he runs in for the touchdown. They get a 2-point conversion, but maybe those demons have been exercised. Right? Maybe those demons have been exercised, and Nebraska can actually pull off a win in a close game, which they did today.
They're getting more comfortable in these moments. They were comfortable last week. They were at ease this week defensively, going out there and maybe they'll get it figured out on offense. Elijah, do you need some sort of station separator here to send KFOR now back to other programming?
I am currently unclear on how I'm going to do that. I have some texts out, so I'm hoping that people get back to me.
Okay.
Just go to Art Bell.
Yeah. Art.
Run Larry King.
No kidding. Be a little difficult now unless Elijah dusts off the Ouija board.
Yeah. As I look up here at the log, I have confusion, so I'm crossing my fingers that somebody out there will get back to me. If not, I hope somebody else will figure it out. This is above my pay grade.
We'll have some final thoughts. Can we run Ty Robinson real quick?
I need to get it edited, so can you fill 30 seconds?
No, yes, absolutely. Bill?
Dude's on the air for 80 hours a week. I think he's got 30 more seconds in him, no matter how bad he's
No, it's all good. Bill, Royals, Yankees this week, man. How about it? You got to remember some of those classic Royals, Yankees, late 70s, early 80s hate fests that went on.
Yeah, and I was at a Royals Yankees game in Kansas City when Jim Fry was the manager of the Kansas City Royals, and he came out into the parking lot. I think there was like an underground tunnel or something in the parking lot in Kansas City, and it was by my car. Well, I was a kid at the time, and the only thing I had for him to sign was a Yankees pennant. And that's where I learned the phrase, "You got to be effing kidding me," for the first time in my life. He signed it, though. I've said, that's all I have. I don't know why I even had a Yankee pennant. I'm a Dodger fan, but nevertheless, I did have Jim Fry at the height of the Royals-Yankees rivalries, George Brett and all those Frank White and Cookie Rojas and all of those players with the Royals. And he signed my Yankee pennant.
What's hilarious is Doleman. All right, story time. Doleman's running ESPN. It's like, dude, we're going to Affiliates Day. A dear friend Aaron Babcock was a PR man for the Royals. So this is what, 15, 20 years ago, almost close to 20 years ago.
Yeah, close to 20.
So Doleman's like, we're going, dude. So we go, drive down, and Doleman brings some equipment, so technically we can air quote work. So we did the Average Joe show from a suite, and Doleman was kind enough to let me ask a question to the GM at the time, Allard Bayard. And the question I asked, and Doleman I can see this look, he's burning a hole through me. He's like, why the hell did you sign Juan Gonzalez? Guys, 50, all right, you can't pass the test, allegedly. And his head snaps and turns and looks at me. He's like, dude, that's why you don't ask questions. Ask the GM without warning on live radio. How you signed Greg Jeffries and Juan Gonzalez?
The guy comes down to meet the affiliates and play nice, and Schmidt drops
hard copy on him.
Yeah.
But the funniest part though is, and we love him, Denny Matthews. Doleman's like, watch this. Denny will be in the parking lot in 30 seconds before the fly ball is caught to end the ball game.
Paul Spildorf used to tell me that Denny's goal was to be in his driveway before the post-game show signed off.
It was funny. It all came to fruition because he sprinted out of there in his khakis. That was too fun. But yeah, Royals, Yanks.
It's good when postseason baseball has some hate. Yeah. Royals, Yankees,
Padres right now. Ohtani went to right field with his first pitch, and
good.
Homeboy did the mother of all bat flips.
Good. Yeah. I'm a Dodger fan because, Southern California and Southern Nebraska, very, very similar areas. So just it's kind of a sister, situation. But yeah.
Anyway, guys, we have Ty Robinson. We've had
did we filibuster long enough for you to do that? Meanwhile, you've got people in the stream who are wanting to hear Neil Bortz, Sally Jesse. I didn't know she had a talk show back in the day, But Art Bell used to own the airwaves on KFOR. But
Well,
let's go with Ty Robinson.
Full honesty time, I had Ty Robinson ready to go like a long time ago, but you guys were into this conversation. It was very intriguing, so I didn't want to cut you off.
No, that's fine. Love it. All right, here is Ty Robinson before we wind her down.
Yeah, it's definitely top 5 moment. I just think it was awesome to see the guys as we huddled up. Everyone was in the same kind of mentality mode, whatever you want to call it. Just saying, we don't care. We're gonna go out there, and we're gonna show what kind of defense we are. And I think we proved today what kind of defense we can be.
To James Williams, not the biggest guy, but how does he do what he does out there?
Just through effort. I mean, the guy is constantly going. I mean, even at practice, we got some of the best tackles, I think, especially when we're going one-on-one pass rush in team scenarios. And, just his work ethic. I mean, it's just awesome to watch him go out there and do his thing. And especially since he's so open to learning from us older guys and Coach Knighton and Coach Rhule. I mean, he can't get enough. So just to watch him go out there and see his hard work, come to fruition and see him do what we knew he was capable of ever since, we first signed him when he came here is awesome. It's awesome.
How motivated were you guys to stop him on guy? He had about 60 in the first quarter, but then he had nothing the rest of the way. I mean, what was your game plan to kind of slow him down?
We knew what kind of running back he was. We knew he was probably going to be one of the best running backs we've seen. Last week in practice, I think Kenneth Walker deserves the biggest shout out of them all. Scout team running back was running, just as hard as him, if not harder, and allowing us to go live this past week for 2 days against the scout team offense. Those guys made it fun and competitive and got us really, going for this weekend.
Can you say about Busi and that 69-yard punt just before the last series and then how that impacted things?
Well, Busi is technically, part of that defense, right? He's doing his part of helping us pin them down in their own 10-yard line, right? And that allows us as a defense to go out there and play a little bit more loose and more free because we know they got to drive, 90, 80 yards to go score a touchdown. So to watch him go out there and, battle through the adversity was really awesome. And it just kind of shows the character of him and, just like that mentality we have as a team. Because, that's all throughout the team. He's just done a great job at, showing it.
You guys want to give him a black shirt after that?
Yeah, we might have to.
Getting so many fourth down stops, did you kind of see their offense kind of like demoralizing, just like, oh, here we go again, we got to get it, and then you guys just pounded it out?
That'll do that to anybody. I feel like if an offense keeps getting those fourth downs, it kind of makes the defense have to think a little bit harder of how to stop it. But the same thing goes to them. They were a hard physical team up front, and there's no doubt about that. I have a lot of respect for those guys. I just think our roster just decided to play a little harder or whatever it may be. I had a lot of fun going against those guys.
How'd you guys feel going out last drive? 2 minutes left. They had a long field to go. What was the vibe like in the defensive huddle?
Well, I think the events, early in the game, all the big plays that were made, the 2 interceptions, I think we had 6 sacks tonight. I think they all, and even that goal line stop, they all fueled that last drive to go out there and just say, this is the defense we are, and this is the defense that we're going to, become still and be here for the rest of the season. So to go out there and, all 11 guys do what they're supposed to do, it ends up winning the game.
Hey, Ty, you guys played 6 games, 6 weeks, get a bye week. How needed is this bye week? I think it's your last home game for about a month now, but you'll be on the road for a key stretch.
Yeah, no, you guys are fired up to still, it wouldn't matter if we didn't have the bye week or not. I think it'll be a good mental reset, mentally, physically, kind of get the bodies back a little bit. I know I'll need it, right? But, it's still going to be the same preparation for us, going against Indiana, 1-0. We're going to enjoy this 24-hour rule, right? And then, come tomorrow, watch the film, see what needs to get done, and then, execute that stuff going on this next week in the practices we have.
After what happened at the end of the Illinois game, how you guys played these last couple weeks, not that you have to prove anything, but what does it validate these last 2 weeks about the defense as a whole and maybe the team as a whole?
Well, I think I could say this is that we were, disgusted and kind of disappointed in ourselves after that Illinois loss because, that's not who we are. And, you know, we really had to come back and ask ourselves who we really were and remember, you know, what we were capable of, especially with the guys on the defensive side of the ball. But to watch, you know, all aspects of the team kind of come together and show that we all can do this together. I think it started, you know, at Purdue. It was awesome to go out there and get that win. And I think it just added on to, like I said, the preparation this last week. I mean, we were all aspects of the team were in watching film on anything we could.
Anything else, Tuck? Your biggest takeaway from the Dominican Super game?
You know, he really pounded us, or I guess he kind of really asked us this one question was, what's your why? He explained what his why was to us and, you know, why he was the player he was and how that motivated him. And I think, you know, that was kind of a big message for us this whole week from, you know, my own coach, Coach Nyan, to Coach Rhule, to Dr. Stout. I mean, it kind of just seemed like everybody was coming from a different angle and just asking, you know, what's your why? Why are you here and why do you do it? And, you know, I think tonight we found out that a lot of guys found their why. And I think it's just going to get better from here.
Good stuff from Ty Robinson. We're winding down Real Red Reaction. Slim Chickens brings it to you. All the post-game coverage, 84th and Old Cheney, 14th and Pine Lake. Nick Ceasy on Twitter says, Schmidt Radio, I started drinking hard in the first quarter. Still going now.
Chasing point 3.
Didn't think we would lose, but why do we have to make it so exciting? Jeff tweets in, I said 35-10. I'll settle for 14-7. A win in a one-score game is huge. And, you know, that's the world you live in college football as I'm watching footage of the goalposts.
Can I ask, did the
back being carried down
Broadway? That was awesome. Can I ask the question? Did the line in Vegas finish at 7.5, 7, 6.5? Do we know where that line finished at? Because I'm sure it's very important to some people.
I saw it at 7 the whole way through.
So a push? We're talking push today?
Probably a push.
And people don't like us talking game. And look how accurate Vegas is. They nailed it.
Again, the unders as well. But Bill.
Oh, look at Brennan. Look at Brennan.
Okay, Black Hills Brennan got in at 6.5. High five, Big Cat.
Congrats,
Black
buddy.
Hills Brennan with the win. But the Average Joe Sports Show Sunday live pod at 10:30, brother. What are we going to be hitting on?
Well, my guess is, again, thanking Ty Robinson and Nash Hutmaker for listening to the Average Joe Sports Show and stepping up the Illinois Mulligan today. Because we talked about how the defense was going to have to step it up and win it. And I think you have to say that they did that. Expected it to be a game kind of like this because of the matchup between Schiano and Rhule and the two staffs. I mean, this was a Big Ten coaches kind of game, right? And Greg Schiano proved why, you know, he's great for that Rutgers job. And he's got a foundation in place. They played to their signature, and Nebraska was just better. Nebraska deserved to win the game today, and they won. That's the bottom line. It could have been, you know, look, I don't think you can leave today's game and say Purdue left points on the field, you know?
No.
I don't think there was any point other than the guy, you know, doinking one off his face mask. That was one that, yeah, the guy had.
They ended up scoring anyway. So, I mean, Nebraska, quite frankly, it's not like Rutgers. They drove it a little bit and they got into Nebraska territory 7, 8, 9 times. But
right.
Nebraska was so good in red zone defense. I think 1 for 5 today. And Nebraska was 2 for 2 in their red zone opportunities offensively.
Well, and think about this too. Nebraska had 3 drives in the second half that began at the 2, 2, and 3.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a field position game.
Yeah.
And so it's one thing for, look, they blocked the punt and had 6 plays from the 3 and couldn't score. That was amazing. That's up there with Nebraska's goal line stand at Illinois last year. Van Poppel was in on both of those, right? But for Nebraska to have such poor field position and have to punt and give Rutgers good field position for the most part on those, although I think maybe Buschini had a pretty good punt on one of them.
They on one of them they started at the 27.
Right.
And
so
punted
a
from the
lot of times when you see those multiple drives that are inside the 10, inside the 5, and it becomes that field position game, that eventually that breaks and that leads to points. And that didn't happen. I'm as impressed with Nebraska not allowing points when they were losing the field position game on starting drives. That is pretty amazing. Usually you start a drive at the 2 and you punt it away. They're getting the ball at the 27 or at least inside the 40, and you're giving up a field goal or you're giving up a touchdown, and you're just demoralized. And a team takes advantage of that 3 times in the second half, 2, 2, and 3 yard line. And that defense, that's really, really impressive. So Nebraska's defense had, some down moments in the Illinois game. Yes, that's why they lost, but they still had a chance to win. But they shut down Rutgers' run game. I expected them to throw the ball 25, 30 times, which they did. They harassed Callie McManus, or what the heck, their quarterback, whatever. So, look, I think Nebraska played really, really well defensively. They've got a week off. They've got a lot to work on. Special teams still have to get better, but Buschini in his own is a weapon. He's the best punter in the Big Ten, and he ought to be an All-America consideration. And so that's a positive in the special teams in the kicking game. But they've got a week off, and Indiana, like I ran down their schedule. They're 6-0, and based on the teams that they've played, they should be 6-0.
Huskers
and Nebraska's 4-1 and has a pretty salty defense.
And to your point, Bill, I think what today did is today established where Nebraska is in the Big Ten, and they're on that same tier with Indiana and really with a lot of teams. Because the way I see the Big Ten right now, you have Ohio State and Oregon, 1A, 1B, not too far behind based on what I've seen. Penn State, and I know they struggled a little bit with UCLA, but hey, it's going to happen. And then I see about 8 to 10 teams in that group below that, where any one of those teams, I think, could be any one of those any given Saturday, just depending on how a game plays out. Things like the weather, if a team shows up to play, where the bye week is at. I think Nebraska is firmly in that next section of teams where it's just, you know what? Any given Saturday, anything can happen when 2 teams from these areas of the conference meet up. And Nebraska's there, Indiana's there, Rutgers is there, Illinois, Iowa. I mean, there's plenty of teams in that level of the Big Ten, and I think all of Nebraska today was firmly established themselves as, you know what, they're in that category between 4 and 12 probably.
And they wanted to turn college football into the NFL, and the Big Ten is the perfect example of that. I don't think the SEC has that kind of parity beneath their top 4 teams, but look, this is what they wanted to turn college football into. And people have to be happy with 14-7 wins, 28-10 wins, and you win and you move on. It is not like the old days. Alabama's found that out today. They're still going to make the playoff, right? But
maybe
this is the way it is. And what are they calling it? The College Student Football League.
Mm-hmm.
Oy.
Well, 4 sacks, 9 TFLs, 2 of 14 on 3rd down for Rutgers. 2 of 6 on 4th down. We'll be back at you. Find us tomorrow at 10:30. Live Average Joe on YouTube. Thanks.
Are we keeping it rocking on the stream, or is this just the end?
Oh,
if this is just the end, I didn't know if you want to make any final thoughts.
I'm impressed you got it. We got it to the top of the hour for you. So that's why we do what we do.
Yeah, that was really big. So is that the end for us?
So for those on the stream, that's how you do it. You just filibuster till the top of the hour.
Well, we still have almost 3,400 people watching.
Depending on how the Twitter number works.
Keep talking.
Hmm?
Well, let's just take it right into the Average Joe Sports Show tomorrow morning at 10:30. Tell your friends and subscribe.
Yeah, I do want to watch the UFC fights tonight and some other college football. There's some good games.
We will say fare thee well. We will say much love to everyone in the stream.
Yeah, got to leave a little meat on the bone.
On Twitter and on YouTube. Thank you much. KFOR Now, KFOR Facebook, KFOR the stream as well. Black Hills Brennan is all over it. Says Toga. Can't you hear old Belushi screaming it? Toga.
Oh, Tiger Shark Diver off the top rope. He says, "What the hell are you going to do, Elijah? Find a girlfriend?"
Wow. It's not very nice.
He's not.
Appreciate all of you for hanging out with us. We'll
You know what I'm
be,
gonna do? I'm gonna go home and watch more sports. Is what I'm gonna do.
Hey, and a nice moment at the game today when they showed Greg Sharp in the booth.
Yes,
I saw him today. Wished him a happy birthday, so we wish Greg a happy birthday. And I know I got to be in the booth a couple weeks ago. I was as thrilled as every other Husker fan to see him there. And happy birthday to him, and blessings to him and his family. He's right back where he loves being, and I'm glad he's there.
well, that is important to note and say, and Greg's money. Also, the tribute that they put forth for Dr. Pat Clare
Oh yeah,
was
absolutely. You're right.
incredible. And
Yep.
the number 44 in the end zone, I believe,
Yep.
Today. So we love the Clares.
Yes.
Always love the Clares. Johnny Clare, Johnny C. He's watching his Padres right now, I think. But we love those folks as well. So
Yep.
some parting hugs to those that we're thinking about. And always find us. We'll be back on Hail Varsity Monday at 4. We'll be back at reviewing and previewing 10:30 tomorrow at the Average Joe Sports Show live Sunday pod. And thanks for tuning in to Real Red Reaction. Slim Chickens, man. Appreciate you guys for making it happen. Hit that drive-through, hit that dining room, get a salad, get some chicken fingers, get the dessert, get some sweet tea. And fire up some wings, man. All sorts of amazing flavors, or the dry rub. Get the Slim Chickens, 14th and Pine Lake, 84th and Old Cheney, both locations for you in Lincoln. And can find us, as always, Hail Varsity YouTube, Twitter, and Real Red Reaction, YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter as well. Billy D, we'll let you be tonight. Pour another Guinness. Thanks. Elijah?
My dog drank the last one.
Oh, no. You be good. Appreciate you. And Brennan from the Black Hills has gotten into some of the wedding gift. I love it.
On that note,
I'm going to go get some new sandals. Peace out. We'll see you